He split time with his mother and father in Goose Creek, South Carolina, as well as in Washington, D.C. And he spent some of that youth in the nation's capital where he would ride the metro because either it was colder than it was inside or hotter than it was outside. And he has been a story talking about the things that he went through as a kid. He related to, and sometimes it wasn't to see walking over dead bodies to get to where he lived. Dr. Jay said he showed up at the Senior Bowl, didn't even work out, and didn't even play, rather, just went through some drills and made a bunch of money. And there you see the reaction of his father. Javon Kinlaw is now a member of the San Francisco 49ers. His story is absolutely remarkable. Booker, his story is incredible, as is what we saw on the field in South Carolina. Without a doubt. You talk about the rich getting richer. He reminds me of a lot of Richard Seymour. Long, big, and powerful. And the San Francisco 49ers are going to love it. Easy play with leverage. When you're a tall player, you got to give the leverage. Extend your arm, control the offensive lineman. He can do it.
We are live. NFL Draft Night. I'm Sam Ekstrom. He's Luke Inman, covering the draft responsibly for zone coverage. There's going to be no high-fiving tonight, no chest bumps, Luke. I know that you're pretty excited the way the board is falling, but we're going to take precautions here and bring you a full night of draft coverage going through the Minnesota Vikings picks. They select at number 22 and number 25. We are 14 picks into this thing. We just saw the second defensive tackle, Javon Kinlaw, go off the board to San Francisco. We've seen one trade tonight, Luke. Not a ton of surprises, but we have seen the fall of Jerry Jeudy, a speedy wide receiver from Alabama. A little bit shocking, and I think if you're a Vikings fan, you're probably thinking cornerback and wide receiver at this point, and both of those positions still have a lot of talent available.
Yeah, certainly, no doubt. Sam, first of all, happy draft day. I wish I could bro hug you, man, but we can't. We're going to be responsible tonight. Very excited, though. Again, the board, as you said, has, for the most part, fallen pretty much as you would have thought. The two big surprises. First of all, no trades. We've only seen one trade here, and that was San Francisco and Tampa Bay. I thought, really, they did both a good job, both winning that trade. Niners get to move back. Remember, they don't have a second, third, or fourth-round pick. They scoop up a fourth-round pick. And Tampa, with old man Brady, they need some protection. He's getting a little rusty in the pocket. They get the last of the big four tackles. Tristan Wirfs, I thought, lasted a little bit longer than they should. Bottom line, though, Denver should take one of these receivers. That means Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb, the best remaining available, should be there if the Vikings want to trade up and get one of these top-tier receivers. Atlanta at 16, the next pick, they shouldn't need a wide receiver. Dallas at 17, they shouldn't need a wide receiver. 18 is about the most you can risk that, Sam, and I think that's why you're looking at, if you want to move up, for CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, a name that probably nobody thought was going to be there for the Vikings. You're looking at and you're circling Dallas Cowboys at pick 17. You're calling them, what's it going to cost to move from 22 to 17? And you're seeing if that's worth the risk.
Pick is in right now for Denver. This is where the board gets really interesting. There have been reports that the Vikings might be interested in a trade up into the late teens if there's a player that they covet. I projected before the draft started that I think there's going to be a run on cornerbacks, and I think it's going to start pretty soon here. I think if you look at the board, you could say that Atlanta needs a cornerback. They've got Jordan Miller suspended. Isaiah Oliver is still not really proven. Dallas loses Byron Jones. Miami gained Byron Jones. They probably don't go cornerback. I don't think in the first round after taking Tua. They probably go with a tackle to give him some support, but I think you could say that the Raiders need a cornerback to go in their secondary. And, the Jaguars trade Jalen Ramsey. They could use a cornerback too. So I think there are a lot of cornerback needy teams leading up to the Vikings at 22. Vikings are obviously as cornerback needy as it gets, with no Rhodes, no Mac Alexander, no Trey Waynes next year. So if there is a run on corners, Luke, do you trade up, try to get one, or do you just sit back, take the best wide receiver available?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sam. I think, again, with those big 4 tackles off the board, the next question becomes is how much do you like a guy like Austin Jackson from USC or Josh Jones from Houston? Jackson, more of a right tackle at USC. Josh Jones at Houston, 4-year starter at left tackle. Where do you feel comfortable moving Riley Reiff inside? Now, when it comes to trading up or taking the best available, just waiting to see how the board shakes out, and we'll see who the Denver Broncos take. It should be one of these wide receivers here, Sam.
Let's turn up Goodell.
Let's see it. Jerry Jeudy off the board. That would have been my choice of the 2. CeeDee Lamb, pretty surprising. Again, just dominant in the open field. Crushed some of that Big 12 competition. The most open field missed tackles forced of any of these big receivers in the league. Maybe teams are a little scared off because of the Big 12 soft defenses and secondaries. I don't know. But Atlanta, again, they don't need a receiver with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley.
Right.
Dallas shouldn't need a receiver there as well. 18 Miami is where you start to get scared. Do the Vikings want to trade up and again, make that call at least? See how much it's going to cost to move up to 17 with the Dallas Cowboys. It's only 5 spots. Again, though, you saw the San Francisco 49ers scoop up an extra 4th-round pick, moving down just 1 spot. But certainly with 5 picks in the top 105, Rick Spielman in that front office, they have ammo if they want to do that.
No doubt. Now let's talk about Jeudy for a second. You had him ranked 4th on your top 100 board. Jeudy, he's 20 years old, actually turns 21 today. This is his 21st birthday. What a birthday gift. 6'1", 190, 1,000-yard receiver, double-digit touchdown scorer each of the last 2 years. Phenomenal route runner. Got to play with the likes of Tua Tagovailoa, which doesn't hurt when you're a wide receiver. He's, even playing alongside Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith still stood out as one of the best receivers in all of college football. And frankly, I'm a little shocked he fell to number 15.
Well, there was some minor discussions about the knee scope. He had a minor knee scope a few years ago that teams were just starting to figure out. You wonder if that caused him to fall. This could be the steal of the draft up to this point. And I say that because you said he's 4th on my big board. He is one of the best route runners and best hands. That combination, when you look at teams' history with draft picks and wide receivers, sometimes it takes a few years for these guys to develop. When you have the route running and the separation skills that Jerry Jeudy has, you're going to be good in the NFL right away. He's the best route runner I've seen coming out since Amari Cooper, also from Alabama. And I think, again, he will be able to really thrive under Pat Shermer, our old guy in Denver, the offensive coordinator. Cortland Sutton really came along. They got a nice 1-2 punch. And then Drew Lock. I'm all about, if you have a young quarterback, Sam, that you're trying to mold and develop into the guy, get him some help. Surround him with some talent. Jerry Jeudy, just a dream scenario if you're the Denver Broncos.
He and Sutton will be phenomenal together. I think we move to the Atlanta Falcons, 7-9 last year. And I think the Falcons are a little similar to the Vikings in that they had this incredible defense built. They peaked in about 2017 when, they made the Super Bowl. And this defense tailed off. They got injured, horrible injury bug in Atlanta. And in free agency, they lose cornerback Desmond Trufant, the linebacker Vic Beasley, linebacker Devondre Campbell, defensive end Adrian Claiborne. They do sign Dante Fowler, and the biggest free agent acquisition of all of March, Luke, Laquan Treadwell, going to Atlanta in free agency. Didn't even crack a smile there.
Yeah, I'm over Treadwell. I'm over it. New crop of young talent coming in. Treadwell burned me a few years ago. In fact, I wanted Josh Doxson that year. But regardless, neither of those guys really panned out. Just stemming off what you said, Sam, the thing that worries me about the Falcons, you're right. They're in a little mini rebuild mode like the Vikings as well. They need a lot of areas. They invested a lot into their offensive line last year. They got Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry, 2 first-round picks. What worries me, if you're a Falcon fan, is the fact that they just used their 2nd-round pick, which is middle of the round, clearly, as you see, picking 16, on Hayden Hurst, a tight end. Now, certainly I don't think Hayden Hurst is a bad player. He was a first-round pick just not long ago. But knowing that you have so many needs if you're the Falcons, You look at two similar situations, the Vikings and the Falcons in these mini rebuild modes. Well, the Vikings have 5 picks in the first 105. The Falcons now with no second-round pick puts a lot of pressure on this pick and this guy to come in right away. Don't think it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. He should fall one more spot. You mentioned maybe a cornerback run here. I don't think it's going to be an offensive lineman. I think maybe a guy like Jeff Gladney or Christian Fulton could make a lot of sense for the Falcons.
Number 16, we're waiting for the Vikings at number 22. Now, the Falcons, we thought were going to be a little more aggressive in this draft. There were reports they were going to move up into the top 10. We only saw one trade. These GMs may be a little bit more conservative with the trades and kind of the unorthodox format this year in the virtual draft. So Atlanta picking 16th. They do add that tight end, Hayden Hurst, after losing Austin Hooper. And I feel like it's defense here. You know, I think Tack McKinley and Grady Jarrett need some help on that defensive line. We haven't had an edge yet in this draft since Chase Young at number 2. Who do you think is the next best edge if they were to go that route? Is it Epinesa? Is it Chason?
For me, it's no doubt it's Chason. I think I had him mocked to the Falcons here, so that would make a lot of sense. Just a long, lanky Daniil Hunter type body frame coming out of LSU. Got that Gumby-like bend around the corner. Tough to find these guys this big, this athletic, and you know, this flexible around the edge. Dan Quinn, I could just see him falling in love with. Really a guy that he would be all over. I like some cornerbacks here, Sam. It's going to be interesting. You've got a second tier of cornerbacks, and Captain agrees. Oh, Captain Motherland here, another cornerback.
Let's just introduce everybody.
Yeah,
Captain the dog is going to make
maybe he's here to tell us there's a trade. That was, you mentioned it. The Falcons were supposed to be aggressive, Sam. There was talks of them trading up to pick number 9 for C.J. Henderson or in the top 10. There's hardly been any trades. There's only been one trade. There's not going to be a trade here at pick 16. I'm interested to see of this virtual draft setup, Sam, how much that had a domino effect or ripple effect on teams not pulling the trigger on some of these trades. You know, Rick Spielman trades quite a bit. We'll see if he wants to trade up, if CeeDee Lamb's still there, if he wants to try to trade down and garnish more picks. If they thought about trading down here, Sam, I think it would be because a team wants to come up and draft a quarterback like Jordan Love out of Utah State. That's what makes the most sense just on paper.
We saw the 3 quarterbacks go off the board in the first 6 picks. There was some thought that Tua Tagovailoa might fall. I know you were thinking that kind of in your gut that the hip was going to be too much of an impediment for teams. Miami took him 5th, and then the Chargers going with the heir apparent to Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert out of Oregon goes number 6. Haven't seen a quarterback go since then. Will there be another quarterback in the first round? You know, I think some of those middle tier quarterbacks, the Jacob Fromms, the Jacob Easons, they're probably going day 2. Jordan Love, he's that wild card. You know, he's got that big arm, small school, maybe a little kind of Josh Allen-like in the evaluation. But that's going to be really interesting to see where and when he might go.
Well, I think what's most interesting so far, I keep going back to these trades or lack thereof, Sam, is the fact that Miami got to sit at 5. They didn't have to expunge any more draft picks, and they got their guy. The Chargers got to sit at pick 6. They didn't have to use any draft picks to move up, and they got their guy. I think it's going to be interesting, the fact that, again, we didn't know if one of those teams didn't get their quarterback, that maybe they would come back up and trade for Jordan Love. The fact that in a cornerback here, A.J. Terrell from Clemson, here's the thing.
That's big.
That's huge.
That rocks
teams didn't know what to think about A.J. Terrell. Let me tell you why, Sam. Is because Jamar Chase, the Blitnikoff Award winner, destroyed this guy in the national championship game. But if you take that game out, which was on the national stage, a lot of people blew that game up a little bit more than they should have. This guy's been outstanding. Number 9 cornerback recruit out of ESPN class 2017, as you see there. 29-1 was the lockdown number 1 corner for a Clemson Tiger team that went 29-1. Clemson's got a great pedigree of pumping some of these secondary players out, Mac Alexander being one of them. But this guy's fast, man. I mean, he ran under a 4.4. I think that's what got a lot of teams' attention once again.
4.42.
A 4.42.
Tied 5th best.
The guy's a blazer. He's got all the size. He's got the great pedigree. Again, there was you asked me if the Vikings should move up and maybe draft a corner. There's about 4 or 5 corners in that second tier behind CJ Henderson that I really like a lot. Jalen Johnson's a name to remember and circle from Houston. I really, really love Jeff Gladney from TCU. Undersized, but man, he plays football like a bulldog. That's the guy I'm circling for the Vikings if CeeDee Lamb doesn't fall to them. But I like A.J. Terrell a lot. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. You said it, Sam. There could be a cornerback run here. It may start right now.
That could be it. I didn't expect Terrell to be pick number 16. You had him ranked 67th on your top 100. Just 23 receptions allowed last year, though. Had that really bad national championship game. Tackling might be a little bit of a struggle, and we've seen that a lot, I think, in this draft class with some of these corners not really unlocking their physicality yet. I mean, even with CJ Henderson, one of the biggest corners, that's supposedly a problem. Terrell missed 11 tackles last year per PFF. A little bit undersized at 195, but I think that a lot of teams feel like they can coach that up once they get some weight on these guys.
And I think the thing that scared me a little bit, again, the national championship game gave me some spooks. I like Gladney and some other guys, Jalen Johnson ahead of him, Christian Fulton from LSU. But sometimes you overthink these things, and you think about this, Sam. This guy got to play next to Isaiah Simmons, okay, who went 7th, 8th overall to the Cardinals. Clavon Wallace, the other safety, is going to get drafted in the top 100 picks. Yeah. And obviously they had one of the best front sevens in the country. Once again, Tanner Muse, the guy who went to Oakland last year, number 5 overall, Cleveland Farrell, tons of talent. You wonder, like Mac Alexander, when he came out, he had no interceptions, but teams just didn't throw his way a lot. You wonder how much that production had to do with all the talent surrounding him. That's what I wonder about a little bit.
Dallas next at number 17. They were 8-8 last year. Huge disappointment. I think they had Super Bowl aspirations, didn't make the playoffs. They're still negotiating with Dak Prescott, who's looking at a very lucrative franchise tag right now. They switched coaches to Mike McCarthy, the former Packers coach. They've got 2 fifth-round picks in this draft, not a ton of capital to move around. They're likely locked in at 17. Unless they trade back. Byron Jones leaves for Miami, so they might need a cornerback. They lose Robert Quinn to Chicago, the edge rusher, and tight end Jason Witten goes to Vegas. No tight ends going in this first round, maybe not in the first couple rounds. They do add Gerald McCoy, the defensive tackle, and safety Clinton Dix. Offensive line is still really, really good. Mm-hmm. I mean, all at guard, at tackle. I don't think they're going OL here. I don't think they're going to steal Josh Jones. And I think with losing Byron Jones to Miami, one of the top corners in the free agency class, could be another corner.
Yeah, certainly. Again, you call it. There could be a run on corner that makes sense here. Christian Fulton makes a lot of sense. The name that has been tied to the Dallas Cowboys was A.J. Terrell, who just got sniped 1 pick before him, and Trevon Diggs from Alabama, 6'2", brother to Stephon, NFL gene set, great in his own scheme. But I think he's got all the, you talk about Mike Zimmer having that power forward and Xavier Rhodes. I think he's got all the tools to be a number 1 type of cornerback, and he can be really good on special teams as well. So Dallas, I think, again, they were looking at A.J. Terrell, I heard. He gets sniped. I think they're looking at Trevon Diggs here as well. K'Lavon Chaisson still sitting there as well. They could always use some more secondary help. Where's Xavier McKinney going to go? Where's the first safety going to go? Where's the first running back going to go? Those are some interesting questions I keep thinking about. Again, though, I think CeeDee Lamb still sitting on the board. Remember, Randall Cobb left. They have Amari Cooper, but they don't have a lot of depth there. So that'll be interesting with knowing that CeeDee Lamb just shouldn't be on the board still. Jerry Jones, a big Oklahoma Big 12 guy. I don't know.
Michael Gallup, though, he's still a young receiver.
That's true. Got to have 3-4 of these guys, though, now, Sam. And in a pass-happy league, you wonder if they're thinking Mike McCarthy, the new head coach, is thinking, you know what, receiver CeeDee Lamb is just too good to pass up here. My gut says either you go best available with CeeDee Lamb, or I think Trevon Diggs is a sneaky pick here as well.
Interesting. Now, once Lamb is off the board, then you get into, I think, that second tier of receivers. Then you're talking about Mims, Rager, Higgins, Chenault,
Jefferson seems to be the big one.
And
Justin Jefferson.
Those are the talents that the Vikings might have their pick of. We'll see if this is receiver or corner or something else. Maybe they throw us for a loop. They go edge. They go.
They could go interior offensive line. I don't see it, though. You're right, Sam. They could go. We haven't seen a linebacker off the board. Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen, 2 stud prospects, just not a highly valued position anymore in the NFL. It seems like you need either build the trenches up front or you build the secondary in the back. Linebackers get lost in the mix a little devalued. Teams are playing a lot more nickel now. But I certainly think if there was a wild card outside of Diggs and or CeeDee Lamb, I think Clavon Chason is just the best player available.
Let's see how you're doing on your mock draft that you released this week. You had the Raiders taking a receiver, but you had Judy instead of Ruggs. Mm-hmm. Niners to Kinlaw, you got that one, even with the trade. Mm-hmm. Very well done. And we'll get the pick in here from Roger Goodell from his virtual bunker with a weird can of M&Ms next to him, CeeDee Lamb.
Here we go.
So they've got Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott.
And a great O-line. Most importantly, they got a great O-line.
Doubling down on offense.
Yeah, no doubt. And maybe that's Mike McCarthy's style. He's still got some toys over there on defense, and you can still go draft a good cornerback coming back in the second here, Sam. But certainly I think CeeDee Lamb was a guy that a lot of people talked about going in the top 10. Listen, I thought when the Jaguars cut Marquise Lee just a few days ago that the writing was on the wall. The Jaguars were going to punch the ticket on this kid. Again, the open field missed tackles is unbelievable. You wonder how much that had to do with some soft Big 12 secondaries, some sloppy tackling, but bottom line, this guy just shouldn't have been here at 17. It's a great value pick, and it takes a little pressure off him as well, knowing that he didn't go in the top 10. You got Amari Cooper who's going to get doubled. You got Zeke Elliott who's going to put 8-9 guys in the box. Listen, maybe this is the blueprint in the NFL. You watch the Chiefs rip it up, offense all year, spread them out now. It's a pass-happy league. Maybe teams just try to win in these shootout type of situations. Cowboys, win or lose, 8-8. 3-13, 10-6. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
CeeDee Lamb, 14 100-yard games in his career, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, back-to-back double-digit touchdown seasons. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Luke. So he catches passes from Baker Mayfield,
correct,
number 1 pick, Kyler Murray, correct, number 1 pick, and Jalen Hurts, who is going to get drafted. We don't know when, not number 1 pick, but another pretty good quarterback who threw for like 4,000 yards. That's how you build a resume right there.
Absolutely. And again, sometimes you sit there and you go, well, look at all the talent around. Look at the quarterback he got to play with. Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown got drafted in the first round last year. The speedster out of Oklahoma, his teammate that was, garnishing double coverage and more attention in the secondary. Bottom line, though, Sam, again, this guy was in a tier above all the rest of these wideouts. Justin Jefferson, I like. Jalen Reagor, I like. Denzel Mims, I like. But nobody comes close to those top 3. CeeDee Lamb just shouldn't have been here.
If you like the analytics, he's got some crazy ones. So if you pay attention to yards per route run, like I would say that 2 yards per route run is good.
Yeah.
3.42, his number the last 2 seasons. Passer rating when targeted, 146.5, which is almost perfect. And yards after catch average, 9.2. So he's just explosive every which way. He's got good size at 6'2". That's an all-around prospect that it's like Judy. It's shocking that he dropped to number 17. So now we turn the page to pick number 2 for Miami. They've got their quarterback. I think you've mocked them as going offense. No, you have them going safety here. I think you had them going offensive line later in the first round because they have a 3rd pick coming up, but you have him going safety McKinney here to bolster that Brian Flores defense. And I told you before we started the show, seems like Miami's trying to skip the rebuild. They doled out about $225 million in free agency contracts, and now they've got their quarterback of the future. They're trying to make it a 1-year rebuild and immediately competitive in a weaker AFC East with New England regressing.
Well, I think now that Tom Brady's finally out of the division, what's it been, 20 years? I think the entire AFC East is up for grabs. I think you're right. The Dolphins say, listen, you have one good offseason now in the NFL. You can go from worst to first. And I think they're going to try to do that. The interesting thing is going to be, do they try to rush Tua along? Because that hip really, Sam, it scares the heck out of me. It really does. He may need to sit out and redshirt his entire rookie year, which I think would be completely fine. But I like the fact that they were aggressive in free agency. They got Brian Flores, a defensive-minded coach, came from that Bill Belichick tree. Toys, some weapons, some guys to move around, some chess pieces, if you will. And with 3 first-round picks, 5 in the top 60, Sam, they're going to add 5 more really good players. They got their quarterback. Now it's about surrounding him with some talent.
Miami's got about 3 minutes here on the clock. Let me ask you a Vikings-related question. If Fulton falls to 22, is Fulton the guy that you immediately take no questions asked? Or is there still debate in your mind? Is Fulton the cut and dried pick?
I don't think – I mean, I get it. The LSU pedigree certainly has the size and speed to be a number 1 cornerback. But my guy's Jeff Gladney, and I don't think there's a lot separating Gladney, Trevon Diggs, Jalen Johnson from Houston. I think those guys are pretty close to one another. If you're talking about the Vikings and their mindset – I'm wondering after these first 4 offensive tackles go, and Miami certainly could go offensive line here as well, that if the Vikings just don't start to feel a little bit of pressure, start to sweat a little bit and say, we just got to take the best offensive lineman available to us. I think Austin Jackson makes a lot of sense to Miami, and I think he could go right here. If he doesn't, I think the Vikings, that's who they're rooting for. Austin Jackson, only 20 years old. Outstanding athleticism, only played right tackle. Can he be a left tackle? Maybe you move Brian O'Neill over. But again, I think the Dolphins may have Austin Jackson in their sights right here. The Vikings could get sniped.
Well, tackles from USC always work out when the Vikings take them. So it's
Undefeated.
Really a no-brainer. Question from Joe. Has any team reached for a player that has surprised you? Any reaches on the board? Terrell caught me off guard. I thought Terrell might have been a little bit of a reach.
Probably Terrell is the biggest one.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Thomas was the big surprise because I had Tristan Wirfs as my number 1 tackle. And I think Jedrick Wills was the number 1 tackle for a lot of people. So I think that's why right now you're looking at the Browns being a big winner there. Tampa Bay Bucks being a big winner as well. I think Andrew Thomas was definitely the safer pick, but I certainly think, again, Wirfs and Wills had a little bit more upside. But if you're looking at the entire draft as a whole, I'm with you. I think AJ Terrell, again, I think he was pegged in more NFL circles than media in that top 20 than I think a lot of people realize. But I think with Fulton, with Gladney, with Trevon Diggs on the board, with Chason on the board, I think that's probably the biggest surprise, or you could call it a quote-unquote reach.
Miami adds Byron Jones from Dallas, which might mean they don't go corner. They add Kyle Van Noy from New England, Shaq Lawson from Buffalo, guard Eric Flowers from Washington, Emmanuel Ogbah from Kansas City, Jordan Howard from Philadelphia. Should I continue? They really lost nobody of consequence in free agency because they traded them all. Last year, they amassed picks, 3 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 fifths. I'd be surprised if Miami didn't make some kind of move in this first round because, again, they're sitting on number 26 as well. They got this pick from the Steelers in the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade. That's why they have 3.
They got the Texans first round for Laramie Tunsil, a reason why they need offensive line so much. Again, now we're getting into the second tier guys. If you're just asking who the best player available is, it's tough not to keep going back to Clavon Chason, the edge. And they're pretty set at defensive tackle. It wouldn't surprise me, though, being in this mini rebuild year, if they just kept taking the best players available. I think that's what you have to do anytime you're starting from the ground floor up. That wouldn't surprise me much as well.
Yeah, they bring in Lawson and Ogbah at defensive end. They drafted Christian Wilkins last year, who I really loved at the time. We've got the pick in from Goodell. There are fans cheering him on in the background. He's wearing a very nice sweater and a collared shirt. The pick is in.
There it is.
Austin
Sniped.
Jackson.
Sniped.
USC.
I think the
tackle.
Vikings, again, I called that one just a few minutes ago that I think they really like Austin Jackson. I think the league was higher on Austin Jackson than a lot of people realize. 20 years old. Again, I think he's a guy that, you look at the competition he played in the Pac-12 coming from USC. This guy athletically would have fit Gary Kubiak's scheme beautifully. Now, Sam, my question becomes, the top 4 tier offensive tackles are gone. It seemed like Austin Jackson certainly would have made a lot of sense. He gets sniped. Where do you start calling the Washington Redskins and asking again about Trent Williams? What can Trent Williams be had for? Is it a third? Is it a fourth? The fact that all these teams like the Browns took a tackle tells you the Redskins are really got their back against the wall. They know they have to move on from Trent Williams. He will not play again. They have to take whatever they can get. And they know, again, that a lot of these teams don't need a tackle now after this draft is unfolded. So I think Austin Jackson would have made a lot of sense for the Vikings. He gets sniped at 18 of the Dolphins. I think you're calling the Redskins and saying, well, what's it going to take to get Trent Williams in a purple jersey? Anything less than a third-round pick, I think you punch it, because I think it opens up a new plethora of options at 22 and 25 to not be pigeonholed in at an offensive tackle.
I mean, just imagine if you either had Diggs on your roster and you didn't have to worry about receiver, or you had a Trent Williams on your roster, you didn't have to worry about tackle, how much more freedom that gives you going forward. I've said this on the podcast before, Zone Coverage Football Machine. Check it out if you're new to us in Zone Coverage. But I think I would only take on Trent Williams in a one-year situation. I don't think I want to extend a potential headache, an older left tackle who hasn't played in 2 years. I don't want to take that financial risk when you have to pay Brian O'Neill next year anyway. But I think I would take him one-year situation, move Reef inside, and just shoot for the moon with your protection and try to get the most out of your offense this year. And if things work out, if Williams likes Minnesota, kind of recoups his value, then you can negotiate. There might be a bidding war for him. You take that risk. I don't know if I would want Williams if it meant paying him a massive contract. I'm nervous about that.
I think the fact that he's sat out now looking at 2 years now, Sam, I think he's at the point where he just wants to play football again. He was one of the top 5 tackles in the league when he was hitting his peak. Granted, you're right. He's getting a little old, long in the tooth, 31 years old, maybe 32 by the time the season ends, but he's also hasn't played in the last 2 years. He should be fresh by that theory. I think if you're going to trade for Trent Williams, you have some sort of deal on the table, some sort of restructure. You backload that deal a little bit. And I think if you're able to do that, I think you got to think about maybe moving on from Anthony Harris to free up that cap space. So if it does mean going to grab Trent Williams, and you have to move on from Anthony Harris. Granted, you should get a second or third round pick for Anthony Harris, but now you have another new glaring need, this time at safety now too.
And with Trent Williams entering a contract year, you got to feel like Washington they're gonna lower the price. The further this thing goes, once the first round gets done, they're obviously not going to get a first round pick. Well, then you go after teams that have multiple thirds. That's the Vikings. Maybe a third round pick. Maybe it's a combination of day 3 picks. Try to put something together, and then if you take on the $14 million, you got to clear some, and that might be the Anthony Harris trade. And I don't know which one has to happen first. It might be that you have to get Harris out of the way and have a taker for him before you can make that Williams trade. I think that with Harris, you got to soften your price, maybe take a third, even though you want a second, and that might be discussion for tomorrow. We've got the Raiders on the clock for their second pick. They go with Henry Ruggs, pick number 1. Raiders obviously, they've got the pick in. Okay. Mike Mayock, John Gruden. What are they going to do? They've got no second.
Probably need a cornerback here, Sam, I would think.
They've got Nevin Lawson and Trayvon Mullen on the roster currently. Both of them were ranked 75th or lower in the PFF rankings. I think their D-line is set. Cleveland Farrell, Max Crosby, Arden Key, Maurice Hurst, Jonathan Hankins. I mean, they're loaded there, and they don't need a kicker.
Well,
Daniel Carlson.
And again, best available, Kalavon Chason. They just don't need one. Cleveland Farrell, Max Crosby, like you said. I think they got to go corner. Is it Gladney? Is it Trevon Diggs? Is it Christian Fulton? I think secondary clearly a need. And you're still going to get good value here too.
And wide receivers, Zay Jones and Tyrell Williams.
Maybe they double dip. Maybe you double dip and go get Justin Jefferson. Another cornerback, Ohio State.
And again, I had Arnett with, I think, a second-round grade. Same with A.J. Terrell. And we're seeing the fall of Fulton. We're seeing the fall of Gladney. I think I would have expected both of them to go off earlier. But, I mean, you love Damon Arnett. At number 19, he goes to the Raiders, and they do add a cornerback. He's the 4th cornerback taken. And that still leaves I think, pretty viable prospects for the Vikings, and we've now gotten out of the late teens. This is where the Vikings were reported to be interested in a trade-up. It hasn't happened. 2 more picks before Minnesota. Tell us about Arnett, the Ohio State Buckeye.
Yeah, a little undersized, but scrappy, man. He was outstanding. He really came along this last 2-3 months of the pre-draft process when people really got a good look at that film and how good, sticky of a man press cover corner he can be. Maybe he's more suited in the nickel, Sam, but they did draft Trayvon Mullen from Clemson last year. I really like these undersized corners have kind of taken the league back by storm a little bit after the Richard Shermans, the big 6'3", long, lanky corners really dominated the league for a while, Sam. Then you saw a shift in the receivers that they tried to match up on those Richard Shermans, the Stephon Diggs, the Odell Beckham Jr.'s, the Amari Coopers, the little smaller, undersized, quick, shifty guys. Now you're seeing, again, the league kind of rebound to that. You're seeing some smaller, shiftier, quicker cornerbacks being taken to kind of compensate that and combat that. Damon Arnett fits that mold. A.J. Terrell, Damon Arnett, Jacksonville could double dip here. Philly could go back to cornerback here, and Minnesota certainly could go corner as well. You could see 5 corners in the last 7 picks.
Arnett can play a little slot. He can play outside. He did have a 5-year career at Ohio State. He's 23 years old, which in NFL terms, a lot of players already have 2-3 years under their belt at this stage. I mean, if you're going to be a first-round pick, I think teams typically like you a little bit younger because it limits your upside. But if you can play right away because of your experience, I think teams will also take that. And Arnett, 195, 6 feet, that's about average corner size. He had really good analytics last year, good coverage grades, only allowed 45% completion percentage in, a pretty good offensive conference. So Damon Arnett goes to the Raiders, and that brings us to Jacksonville.
Their second pick now. Again, drafted C.J. Henderson. Should be a solid pick at pick 9. Kind of what we talked about all month, Sam. This, for me, kind of worst case scenario for the Vikings. None of the big names are going to fall in your lap. 22 we knew is just too far outside, kind of the boundary of a big name falling like CeeDee Lamb. You knew there's always one name that falls, but it's only in the late teens. You're going to have to move up. And then Austin Jackson clearly, I think, was a little higher on people's radars in NFL circles. That goes to the Miami Dolphins. The Vikings now are sitting there again. You have to call Washington and ask about Trent Williams, because now you're looking at Josh Jones and then a big dip here at offensive line. Maybe, again, they want to keep Riley Reif at left tackle. There is some good interior guys, Cesar Ruiz from Michigan, but at pick 22 or 25, is that a little too high? Worst case scenario, best available is a defensive end, K'Lavon Chaisson. I just don't know where they rank those guys when you look at a Fetty, should be a starting defensive end for this team. You know what I'm going to say. I'm not sold. Everson Griffin doesn't end back in purple. I'll believe it when I see it.
You'll never let it die.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Jacksonville went 6-10 last year. Are they committed to Gardner Minshew? I think probably yes at this point. The fact that they didn't take a quarterback and try to trade up with number 9. They need wide receivers. They lost Marquise Lee. They've got DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook. I think they could use some help, especially if they're going to commit to Minshew. You got to surround a young quarterback with some talent. They've got talent on the defensive line. Josh Allen, Taven Bryan, Yannick Ngakoue might be out the door. So Chaisson may be an edge option. And then, at corner, DJ Hayden, phenomenal last year. Rashawn Melvin, not phenomenal. AJ Boye is gone. Obviously, they have this pick because they traded Jalen Ramsey. So, again, it could be corner. I think it could be receiver. And we keep saying it, Luke. The Vikings' 2 biggest needs seem to be the needs of every team before them. And it's almost like teams sort of, built their rosters in free agency around the assumption that there's going to be players available in the draft. And the Vikings are going to be at the end of this cornerback run. And just to put myself on record, I kind of saw this cornerback run happening and then Josh Jones falling into the Vikings' lap. I still think that's the play here if Jones lasts the next 2 picks.
Yeah, again, you're kind of – it just doesn't feel like – and we've talked about that scenario. It just doesn't feel like you're getting great value, a wow factor. He's a starting left tackle at Houston for 4 years. But again, maybe they want to find their new left tackle with Ryan O'Neal, a cornerstone. Garrett Bradbury is going to be a cornerstone for a long time. They want to fix this offensive line. Mike Zimmer wants to get back to old school ground and pound with Gary Kubiak. They want to finish this offensive line rebuild. I think Josh Jones really is the only guy that you think about here for offensive line. And then there's a big dip. Cesar Ruiz is probably the next highest ranked guy that I have, and he's more of a center/guard. You're keeping Riley Reef over there on the left side. Trent Williams, I keep going back to him. What can he be had for? Is this a mini rebuild year? If it is, maybe you just want to trade back. Maybe Josh Jones isn't enough value for you. You just want to trade back and try to garnish as much picks as you can. Certainly you need a trade partner, first of all, to move up. But maybe somebody wants Jordan Love, the quarterback for Utah State.
Lee wants Xavier McKinney. You know, if Harris is gone, you've got one safety on the roster.
Yep.
One safety. And even if you do keep Harris, you know, it is at this point only a 1-year deal, and you're going to need depth for the future. Harrison won't be around forever. I don't think that would be a pick that satisfies a lot of people just because it's not your most pressing need. It's probably about your 5th or 6th biggest need on this team. But, I mean, McKinney, great pedigree, Alabama, he and Delpit, the 2 best safeties, come from great programs.
Well, don't forget about Antoine Winfield Jr., too. How far away is he from the top 2? McKinney from Alabama, I really like, Sam, but more of a in-the-box safety. He had some issues with spacing when I saw him out in coverage a little bit. You go back and watch the South Carolina game. Brian Edwards really worked him quite a bit in the middle of the field with that spacing pedigree. I think Xavier McKinney, great in the box, but that means you're moving Harrison Smith back out to a center fielder, one of the best center field safeties, low-key, kind of under the radar that we've seen in the last 4, 5, 6 years. But is he getting a little slower to play that center field role? I don't know. McKinney, I don't think is going to be the pick. I think, again, they look at corner or they look at offensive line. If it is, it's probably got to be Josh Jones. You see the big board here. Maybe they just say, you know what, we wanted to wait on receiver. This class is so good, but we never thought Justin Jefferson would be there.
Looks like the pick is in for Jacksonville. Once again, to reset things, I'm Sam Ekstrom. He's Luke Inman for zone coverage. Roger Goodell announcing pick number 20. Jacksonville takes Chason, the edge rusher from LSU. I think a lot of people make the Daniil Hunter comparison. Raw edge rusher from LSU. Would have been great to get him in Andre Patterson's hands. He goes to Jacksonville, and this is the player for player. This is the Yannick Ngakoue replacement. And I think Ngakoue feeling a little tied up right now in Jacksonville. He wants to move on after getting franchised. But this is the signaling that they're turning over a new leaf with the Jaguars. And I think this is great news for Vikings fans because this was probably not going to be their pick at 22, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. Again, a fatty, maybe Everson comes back, whatever the situation is on your defensive end situation. It's just not a big enough need to punch it at 22. This guy, though, is outstanding. I mean, this guy probably could have went 16 to the Falcons. That's where I had him mocked. Reminds me a lot of Trey Flowers, 6'3", 254, can play. Sure, he's a guy in the hand of the dirt right here, as you see in the highlight. He can play in the 2-point stance, standing up as a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he can do everything, Sam. He's a guy like Trey Flowers, like Bill Belichick used Trey Flowers. You move him all over that front seven because he's that big, he's that fast, Gumby-like bend, as I called it. I think he can be a big difference maker. And the Jaguars, all of a sudden, if they're comfortable with Gardner Minshew, okay, and I know they just cut Marquise Lee, which I thought was a little goofy, but there's plenty of receivers, so don't worry about that. They are rebuilding their defense very quickly back up. Taven Bryan was a first-round pick a few years ago. You move Chason right over here. And how about Josh Allen, the edge rusher from Kentucky, a top 10 pick? And now you got your cornerback, C.J. Anderson. The Jaguars doing some fun, interesting things here. I like what they've done so far. 2 just impact players, 2 really talented players.
Building up the defense for sure. And Chason, he's got the injury red flag, tore his ACL in 2018, only played 2 years of high school ball, 1 year as a college starter. So untapped potential when you're 20 years old. That's why we talked about age. It's like Daniil Hunter. Again, the comparison. Was he 19 when the Vikings drafted her, or was he 20?
He was 20. He was the youngest player in the 2015 draft, though, the youngest.
Yeah, and this is the case for Chasen, who's 20 years old. He's got all the athletic ability in the world, hasn't played football that long, and Jacksonville gets him at number 20, the second edge rusher taken, and the first one in the last 18 picks this first round, a little light on those defensive ends. And now we're almost to the moment of truth. Philadelphia. Coach Doug Peterson, GM Howie Roseman, they're on the clock right before Minnesota. And Philly, once again, kind of like Atlanta, peaked in 2017. They won a Super Bowl. We assumed that it was going to be almost a dynasty with Carson Wentz coming back, and it hasn't been the case. Philadelphia did sneak into the playoffs last year. We're starting now the run of playoff teams with pick 21. They were 9-7, but they've got 3/4, no 7ths. I don't think unless the Vikings really get a whiff that they're going to take the player they covet. It feels like Minnesota's going to make this pick at number 22. Now, Philadelphia, you could argue, does need wide receiver and corner. So again, it's those two positions. Corner was a huge problem last year, but they did bring in Darius Slay via trade.
Yeah, and they were also 23rd, a bottom third in the league, Sam, in open field tackling and coverage, which means linebacker should be on the radar with Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen as well. But you saw the highlight up there. Those last 4 games when they snuck into the playoffs, they had no receiving core. And I know if you want to build Doug Peterson's offense around Carson Wentz, you better get him some weapons. Justin Jefferson worries me a little bit. He's a slot guy. He got to play with Jamar Chase, the Biletnikoff Award winner. He got to play with Joe Burrow, but you can see his family celebrating. I think Justin Jefferson, that makes a lot of sense. You can get a linebacker later on. You can get a cornerback later on. You got Darius Slay. I think Justin Jefferson just makes a ton of sense. And again, Vikings now at 22. Is it Josh Jones, an offensive tackle? Is it Zimmer? Who's your best corner on your board? Who do you want me to go take? Are they taking calls for cheap? Are they saying anybody want Jordan Love right now? Because New England at 23, that might be a team that wants a quarterback. The Saints at 24, that might be a team that wants a quarterback. So we'll move down for cheaper than we normally would, and we'll get another corner or Josh Jones here in a few picks.
Philadelphia lost their tackle, Halapalivati Vaitai.
Good job.
Big
wow.
He goes to Detroit. They lost the free safety, Malcolm Jenkins, running back Jordan Howard, DT Timmy Jernigan, corner Ronald Darby, wide receiver Nelson Aguilar. Really got decimated in free agency. They did add Nicole Roby-Coleman and Slay, as mentioned, via trade. Offensive line, with Dillard, Kelsey, Lane Johnson. I think they're probably good there. I did jot down linebacker Kenneth Murray, Patrick Queen, maybe still in play. And at wide receiver, it's all about, do you need that injection of young talent? Because Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, longer in the tooth. You've got a great tight end tandem. I mean, we have to consider, too, that Philadelphia runs those 12 personnel sets. Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, maybe the best tight end tandem in football. Goodell set us up with pick number 21.
And I'll sneak in real quick here. Don't forget, their second-round pick last year was a receiver, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Really disappointed, Sam. I think they're worried about him. And again, if he doesn't pan out, they are really hurting at wide receiver. I think Justin Jefferson makes the most sense here.
Goodell's going to tell us.
Wow.
Jalen Reagor, now TCU receiver.
Let's get you caught up real quick here, Sam. Now, what do the Vikings want to do here at 22? I think you're fielding calls. You want to know what Trent Williams is going to cost you. You want to see if a team wants to bump up and go take Jordan Love. But if not, how important is finishing your offensive line overhaul? That's going to mean Josh Jones or Cesar Ruiz. How important is it getting Mike Zimmer another toy in the secondary at cornerback? If that's the case, Christian Fulton, Jeff Gladney, Trevon Diggs all make a lot of sense. Or Justin Jefferson, a guy I just played devil's advocate against. Justin Jefferson is a guy that not a lot of people thought would be here at 22. Could have went 19 to the Raiders. Could have went 20 to the Jags. Could have went 21 to the Eagles. I think Justin Jefferson, as much as I played devil's advocate, got to play with an awful lot of talent. at LSU, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. He is outstanding in the slot. If you think Adam Thielen can be a boundary guy, that's a nice little tandem to fill the shoes of Stephon Boyd.
Yeah, and Justin Jefferson, he's got the size. He operates from the slot. He was the big slot at LSU. Played with Joe Burrow, and I'm always a little naturally skeptical of these players that come from programs like Alabama or Oklahoma, where there's 12 draft picks, and you wonder how much did they benefit from that system. And to be honest with you, talk about Rager, I would have loved Jalen Rager on the Vikings.
Me too.
Special teams guy, track star, kind of speed. I mean, I think that could have been a coveted piece by the Minnesota Vikings, but Rager goes to Philadelphia, that wide receiver, as we projected they might opt to go with. Doug Peterson looks happy. And now we're here, Luke. I mean, the Vikings are on the clock. Let's reset the scene. Best available players: Justin Jefferson, Josh Jones. Who else would you
maybe Kristen Fulton? I like Jeff Gladney. Maybe one of the receivers, which you just don't need. Again, this is kind of the worst case scenario that we laid out all these options for a lot of these, Viking scenarios. And trust me, we know Rick Spielman, Rob Brzezinski, Mike Zimmer, they've ran through all these simulations. They knew this was a likely option, that Austin Jackson, their guy, was going to be gone, that all the receivers were going to be gone. So it'll be interesting here. There's no trade. The pick is in. The Minnesota Vikings are keeping the 22nd selection. We thought maybe they would move down. Maybe somebody wanted Jordan Love. But I think, as we've seen so far, Sam, only one trade this first round. I think it's just too tough with this virtual setup for teams to really be aggressive, wait till the last second for somebody to move down, and to get the right compensation to make it worth it. Final gut, I love Jeff Gladney from TCU. I think Justin Jefferson would be good value. I think they want to finish their offensive line overhaul. I think the pick's going to be Josh Jones, granted a non-5 power school program at Houston, but started 4 years at left tackle, and I think they want their new left tackle. You can keep Brian O'Neill at right tackle, where he's thriving, but they want their new bookend offensive line complete. Mike Zimmer's old school. Kubiak wants to run the ball. Kirk Cousins needs a clean pocket. I think Josh Jones is going to be the pick.
And if you pick Jones, it means you're not trading for Trent Williams. And it seems like all of the suitors for Trent Williams have taken tackles. And does that throw you off the scent a little bit, that no one seems to want this guy? I think that's a little bit peculiar as well. I predicted Josh Jones before this all started. I'm going to stick with my pick. He's 6'5", 320, sterling record in pass protection. And that's where the Vikings need to give Kirk Cousins all day to throw. And if this happens, what does it mean for Riley Reif? We still don't know. Is he restructured? Is he moved to left guard at the same salary? What happens with him? That's still to be determined. But you have to take into consideration, Luke, why didn't the Vikings sign anybody at guard in free agency and, in fact, release Josh Klein? There's a plan here, and it might include moving Riley Reif inside. Josh Jones last season, or the last 3 seasons, I should say, only 18 pressures allowed total. If he's the pick, you're not going to hear a bad statistical word about him. Durability, the small school label, that might get him a little bit. That might be a red flag. But if it's Justin Jefferson, let's set you up with him. 6'1", 200 pounds, 20 years old, a national champion. If it's someone other than those two, Fulton, cornerback.
Yeah, probably corner makes sense. I like Gladney. I think just looking at the board, if you're going to see a surprise, maybe it's Justin Jefferson, but I think they're comfortable, Sam, with this wide receiver class. Don't think it's going to be a wide receiver. I think Josh Jones, again, I go back to him, he makes a lot of sense because he is a A-plus athlete. I thought Austin Jackson was an A-plus athlete. So is Josh Jones. Okay, he came from Houston, not USC, so maybe not quite the competition, but this guy was a former basketball stud in high school, playing in the AAU tournaments. This guy was an outstanding basketball player. So his athletic ability is really, really good coming in the league. He's a much better pass blocker right now than he is a run blocker, but with how athletic he is, I'm not too worried about his run blocking with Gary Kubiak and his scheme really playing to the strengths of this athletic, big body dude. I think PFF's, it's one of their favorite graded tackles in the entire draft, which makes you feel good. You mentioned his pass blocking grade was outstanding. I think he's a great pass blocker. Can come in at left tackle right away, day one. Riley Reef, slide him inside to guard. Drew Samia, clearly part of the big term plan. I think Josh Jones makes the most sense top to bottom when you look at need and value of what's still remaining on the board.
Now, if it's a wide receiver, Vikings obviously have a sordid history taking receivers in the first round. Troy Williamson, bust. Cordero Patterson had his moments, but I think a lot of people considered him a bust. And Laquan Treadwell, probably the worst of the bunch. Laquan Treadwell gone from the team now. Do they go back to the well in the first round at wide receiver? Stephon Diggs traded. Do they look for the immediate replacement? Still waiting for the pick, which is reportedly in. Kurt Warner's going to tell us something here. But again, Vikings picking at 25, just 3 picks later. 2 big-name franchises standing in between them. New England, who might need a quarterback. New Orleans obviously doesn't, need a quarterback for this year, but maybe for the year after that. So is this the Jordan Love selection? We don't know yet what's going to happen after this number 22. We're looking at Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer in their labyrinths. Rick Spielman talking on the conference call a couple days ago, saying that he's got 12 screens set up in his living room trying to mimic the Minnesota Vikings draft room at TCO Performance Center. The pick is in. We go to it now. Skull chant from Roger Goodell.
Now Goodell's daughter, apparently a big Viking fan.
That's
So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Okay.
It's
So
Justin
you go tackle.
Jefferson.
Okay, so you go wide receiver. Justin Jefferson. Listen, this guy off the line of scrimmage, in the slot, again, got to play with Jamar Chase, got to play with Joe Burrow. That worries me a little bit. Didn't come off the line super well. But this guy, again, from everything that I've seen, his body of work, this guy, you could easily say after the top 3 wide receivers was the next best wideout. Patriots moving back with the Chargers. Chargers are going to move up and go draft Jordan Love. Interesting. Maybe they thought Justin Jefferson.
It's not Jordan Love because they got Herbert.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Why would the Chargers be moving up at this point? That's interesting. Maybe it's Josh Jones. Maybe they said, oh my gosh, we got Herbert. We need to tackle. I'm surprised the Vikings didn't take Josh Jones here. That could be an interesting snipe, and the Vikings would be really hurting then at offensive line. Maybe Cesar Ruiz is an option, but again, more of an interior guy. Justin Jefferson, man, again, I think he can be dominant in the slot. That means Adam Thielen, though, a guy who they like to move around quite a bit, has to be that bigger body boundary guy and thrive as a number 1 wide receiver. Bottom line, though, again, 21 years old, 6'1", 202 pounds, 4'4", 340. I think this guy's got the goods, man. Hey, LSU's got a great pedigree, pumping out some of these great big-time receivers. Check out the ball tracking skills as well. You had to get Kirk Cousins somebody. I didn't like the idea of filling the void right away of Stephon Diggs. Puts a lot of pressure on this kid, but Justin Jefferson, again, easily, you could say, is the 4th best wide receiver in a loaded class. This guy can make plays for you.
Tied for the college football lead with 111 receptions while compiling 1,540 yards. Mammoth production, big slot from LSU, played with Joe Burrow. Obviously surrounded by a lot of diversions, whether it was their running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or whether it was Chase on the other side, correct?
Yep, Jamar Chase, the Litnikoff Award winner.
Right.
Yep. Going to be the number one.
Thad Moss on that offense.
Going to be the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as you said, the running back. He broke the single season record with 111 catches. As you see Mike Zimmer cheering over there, Justin Jefferson. Again, I still think offensive line now. I hope Josh Jones doesn't get sniped right here. That would make a lot of sense if you're the Chargers to move up. You see Rick Spielman. You see J.D. Spielman over here in Eden Prairie. Pretty cool moment. Again, LSU, great pedigree, great school history, pumping out some serious wide receiver talent. Here's Justin Jefferson. More fast and quick, but his route running, Sam, is so good that he can be a guy that comes in the league right away and thrives for Kirk Cousins. I think this whole mini rebuild situation, I don't think they're having it. I think they want to stay competitive. They want guys that can come in right away and be pretty good. If Austin Jackson was still on the board, it would have been interesting because I think that that would have made a lot of sense. So Patriots move all the way back. They get the Chargers' second-round pick, which is an early second-round pick, and then they get their third-round pick as well. Chargers won't pick now for a while. Patriots, they're in rebuild mode after Tom Brady. They'll probably just say, you know what? Hey, we had a great run. Let's take a step back here and pump the brakes. Hopefully the pick isn't Josh Jones. I think that's who the Vikings want to come back with at 25.
So if you go in this first round without getting a corner, are you confident that there will be options tomorrow if you don't pick till 58?
I think so. I think we're fine. I would rather risk it on cornerback than I would offensive tackle, especially knowing Mike Zimmer's
Let
pedigree.
Zimmer do his thing.
Let Mike Zimmer work his magic, the DB guru, maybe the best defensive back coach in the entire league. Let the offense get some more toys for once. Zimmer's got such a great pedigree with those cornerbacks. Whether it's Javon Diggs could fall, Sam, whether it's Jeff Gladney could fall, Jalen Johnson from Houston, I think makes a lot of sense. There's still plenty of good cornerbacks. Bryce Hall, by the way, before he tore his ACL,
Yeah,
I know
I
think a first-round talent big time. So Bryce Hall makes a lot of sense. There's tons of corners. This tackle class is going to get thin really quick. Again, maybe they're on the phone with the Washington Redskins about Trent Williams. I don't know. That would make things a little bit easier and take the pressure off. We'll see what the Chargers do. If Josh Jones isn't the pick, I'll be pretty surprised here.
I mean, you look at 4 corners going off the board, 5 tackles. That sort of gave you better value taking a receiver for the Vikings at 22. It's Justin Jefferson. Chargers move up. Patriots get some picks, and the Chargers splashing here in their move to the big flashy new stadium in L.A., where they may not get any fans. Goodell. Linebacker Kenneth Murray goes off the board.
Love this dude. 28 tackles in one game. Granted, it was an overtime game. I've never even heard of that, Sam. That's a video game. This guy's got thunder in his pads. He's a big, old-school linebacker. You got to love what Anthony Lynn has done and is still doing with this defense. Derwin James, Nasir Adderley, Melvin Ingram, now Kenneth Murray, and Joey Bosa? Stop it.
Vikings don't have to play him for 4 years.
Whoa, dude. Hey, man,
so
6
close.
feet, man. 6 feet. Come on.
4 years until they have to play that group again. By that point, I mean, they'll all be old men.
Yeah, no big
be
deal.
limping
But
around.
I think you still go back. You got to talk about Justin Jefferson a little bit more here again. I didn't like the idea of just filling the void of Stephon Diggs right away with Justin Jefferson, a receiver. But again, I think after the big 3, a lot of people, if you poll them and ask them, would say Justin Jefferson was the 4th best wide receiver in this class. The more you watch him, you understand he's actually a lot like Stephon Diggs. More quick, more sudden and explosive out of his breaks than he is fast, but he attacks the ball when it's in the air, Sam. For being a 5'11 and a half dude, 6 foot, he's very aggressive when the ball is in the air at the stem, at its highest point. He can be aggressive like Diggs was. Remember, one of the better deep threats, basically, right? Diggs, if you're 5'11, but you're one of the best deep threats in the league, Justin Jefferson actually has a lot of those similar traits. I like that the Vikings win offense. I was surprised they didn't go offensive tackle. Maybe they come back here after the Saints, who will not be going offensive line, and go Josh Jones.
Worth mentioning for Justin Jefferson, one of the few negatives is that all of college listed at 6'3", and you're thinking, what, a 6'3" prospect that can move this well? Gets to the combine, 6'1". Lost 2 inches there in translation. So maybe not as otherworldly as you expected. Still pretty good size. And I think we've learned, Luke, that it's not all about your height. It's about your ability to separate. It's your ability to make contested catches. You can be 5'10" and play bigger than your height. So I think with Justin Jefferson still at 20 years old, the sky's the limit. One more pick to the Vikings now again, number 24. The Saints are on the board, ousted by Minnesota last year. And Luke, I'm looking through the Saints roster today.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have many weaknesses, man. I mean, with Drew Brees coming back, they lose Teddy Bridgewater, the backup, but, Brees is still there. They lose Von Bell to Cincinnati, but they've got a plethora of good defensive backs. They lose Eli Apple, who's still sitting there in free agency, but they added Emmanuel Sanders. They added Malcolm Jenkins. They re-signed Andrews Pete. This offensive line, this offense is loaded. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook, Drew Brees. There's so much talent on that team. I still can't believe the Vikings beat them, but I think you can go true BPA if you're the New Orleans Saints.
I think so.
Unless they're bringing in Love and to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees, I think you can absolutely take the best available, and it might be Jordan Love, but it also could be Xavier McKinney. It could be at this point. It could be
Kristen Fulton. That makes it Gladney, Mims. I think receiver, corner, or safety is probably what you're looking at when you just look at best available. Patrick Queen, maybe a linebacker, really good talent. I think they're looking at like a Denzel Mims to pair next to Michael Thomas. They don't have much outside of Michael Thomas, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Or corner, and because Drew Brees, he's going to get you in some shootouts. You need guys that can close out games in the fourth quarter. You have to have 3 good cornerbacks in this league, and I think the Saints may want to do that. Still surprised, Sam. No safeties off the board yet. No running backs off the board yet. No tight ends off the board yet. Could we see one at the end of this first round? I think of the 3, those safeties should go. I think Grant Delpit and Xavier McKinney should go on these next 8 picks. But are we going to see a running back? It's just so devalued now, Sam, in the league. Pass-happy league. DeAndre Swift, people love him. Jonathan Taylor, blaze the 40, runs angry, comes from that Wisconsin pedigree. But we'll see how high these teams value these running backs.
Now, for the Vikings at 25, I am advocating for a trade back. You look at what the teams behind them have. Miami at number 26 has practically infinite draft capital. I've got it in my notes. They've got 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and 3 fifths. So those 2 second-round picks and the 3 fifths could play a role. They could use one of each, move up in the first round. They've got the Ravens behind them, who have multiple picks in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Seattle, 2 seconds and 2 fourths. So at 26, 27, 28, the 3 teams directly behind the Minnesota Vikings all have the capital to move up. I think you got to make a move back here. You try to get another day 2 pick if you can, and just maximize what you can get out of these first 2 days and these first 50 to 60 picks.
Yeah, this is what makes it fun, Sam. You just don't know how this is all going to shake out, but they still have a lot of ammo. There's a lot of veteran trades I think are going to happen between tonight and tomorrow. Trent Williams, maybe Anthony Harris. How about Joe Thuney could be on the move? You just saw the Patriots move down. They're basically throwing their hands up saying we could be in rebuild mode. Maybe they want to get rid of Joe Thuney for cheap. There's options out there for sure. Let's see what the Saints do here first. I think they'll likely go corner or wide out. And that'll, again, leave the door open for the Vikings to draft their left tackle in Josh Jones, ultra-athletic, fits the Kubiak scheme, and would give them, again, that young core, that nucleus at offensive line with O'Neal thriving and Garrett Bradbury certainly in the mix for a long time.
And if they take a tackle, do you think they would entertain making it a redshirt year and keep Riley Reif there for a year? Remember, Reif's still under contract. Or do you absolutely move Reif inside? Now, that only way that makes me nervous is new position for Reif and a rookie left tackle.
Right.
And maybe it's a rookie right tackle. Maybe O'Neal moves to the left. That's a possibility. But then you have new people at 2 different positions, and that's what makes me nervous. I want a little more continuity than that. Could be a big mix and match kind of year. Maybe we had different guards last year. Maybe it's a new tackle, and maybe the Vikings want to mix things up. Cameo from Captain the Dog here. He's excited. He's pumped. Just woke up from his nap. He'll be in and out for sure. But the Saints, Sean Payton making their pick. And again, I think they've got a plethora of options here. You know, you look in their secondary, Marshawn Lattimore, solid.
They've got 2 studs in the
PJ
secondary,
Williams, Marcus Williams,
and then a receiver. They have a great number 1 receiver in Michael Thomas. They got a great number 1 shutdown corner in who you just said, Marshawn Lattimore. Do they want to add that second? I think it's got to be Saints are just one of these pass-happy teams. They're either going to want to add more firepower, or they're going to on the offense side of the ball, or they're going to want to start being able to shut teams down in the fourth quarter in these shootouts with Drew Brees.
I'm a little surprised that the Chargers moved up to take that linebacker. I don't think that the Saints need one with Demario Davis. I don't think the Vikings need one with Barr or Kendricks.
It tells you how much they probably valued Kenneth Murray as a top 10, top 12 player. They just didn't think they were going to get past the Philadelphia Eagles, who I did mention really needed a linebacker as well.
Cesar Ruiz. They haven't shown the pick. I think it's Ruiz, though.
Again, though, the Vikings may have called him as well, because that makes a lot of sense for the Vikings as well. No, he's got the Saints.
He's got the no loss. Cesar Ruiz, Michigan.
Youngest
is the pick. First guard taken.
Yeah, youngest interior lineman in the entire draft. Again, big body dude. This is going to be really interesting now for the Vikings, because it's Josh Jones or bust, Sam. You know you want to fix the offensive line. You don't want to reach. You want to grab anything too wild here. But, again, if you don't grab Josh Jones, there's a little drop-off here. Austin Jackson got sniped at 18. You're looking at Matthew Pert. You're looking at Ben Bartch. You're looking at John Simpson, a guard from Clemson. You're looking at Tyler Biadasz, a guard from Wisconsin. But that means leaving Riley Reif on the outside of left tackle, which is fine, but puts a lot of pressure, I think, on Kirk Cousins.
Ruiz, right guard and center at Michigan. He's 20 years old, 6'3", 305, really good athletic profile. Again, I didn't see the Saints going offensive line, especially after re-signing Andres Pete. Eric McCoy, high draft pick, he was their center, and he was phenomenal. Phenomenal as a rookie. He's not getting replaced. So this is a Larry Warford replacement, because it's not Pete and it's not McCoy. This is probably the new right guard for the New Orleans Saints. And, like I told you, Luke, this might be a little surprising to some, because this is not a strong guard class, but when you're the Saints and you don't really have holes,
you're right.
You just take your pick. You take whoever impressed you the most, who you think you can plug and play, who impresses you with their character. You don't have to take any character gambles. There's really no injury concern that I know of with Ruiz. So this is the type of team that could take a flyer, if you will, on kind of the first of his position in this draft, interior offensive line. And that clears the way now for the Vikings to take Jones if they want. And, we've kind of seen the cornerback run cool down here. Nobody in the 20s has taken a corner. No one since the Raiders at 19 with Arnett. Chasen, Rieger, Jefferson, Murray, Ruiz. Still, Trevon Diggs is on the board.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Would you take Trevon Diggs after what happened with Stephon?
Well, we don't really know what happened with Stephon inside the locker room. As far as a player, so I can't speak on that, Sam. As far as a player and evaluation goes, he's going to be one of the best, outside of Jeff Gladney from TCU, the best cornerbacks available. You want another Xavier Rhodes, a new power forward Xavier Rhodes? I would love it if the Vikings drafted Trevon Diggs. Again, despite what you're saying about the exit of Stephon Diggs, he was a hell of a pick and a hell of a player for the time he was here. Gave us the Minneapolis Miracle, gave us some great plays. There's no reason for me to think that Trevon Diggs won't be very impactful like his brother in the NFL. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. Seemed like Diggs just wanted out. You hear Kirk Cousins talk about it just seemed like he just wanted out of there, and that was going to be best for both parties. But I certainly think that Trevon Diggs, I would be so excited. I will go to bed excited tonight and give me a lot of optimism if they took Trevon Diggs here.
The pick is in and the pick is traded. The Vikings are not going to pick at 25. They moved back. I thought this was a possibility. And San Francisco, who's got next to no draft capital, Could this be a 2021?
It certainly could be.
The Niners have nothing tomorrow.
Well, they have nothing tomorrow. They have 2 4th-round picks, I believe. So that's it. So this is a future. This is probably a future, a future third, maybe a second. I doubt it. If Rick could get a future second, that's a huge win, I think, for sure.
Schefter's going to tell us.
And 176 to Minnesota for the 25th overall pick. And what the 49ers are doing was in this deep wide receiver
Listening to the trade details.
They lost Emmanuel Sanders in free agency.
They want Mims. I bet you they want Mims. But you get 117 and you get 170. So you get what? The 4th rounder they just took from Tampa Bay, I believe. And you probably get a 6th or a 7th, which is this classic Spielman. Stockling tells me that offer was too good to refuse. They're not in love with Josh Jones. They're not in love with any of those cornerbacks. They move back, 6 spots? They go from 25 to 31. Mm-hmm. Somebody's
we're going to
be on for a while, guys. Charge your computer up, okay? Go grab a beverage if you need to. Hit the can by all means. How many 3 live watchers? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it so much.
Also on YouTube if you don't like watching on Facebook.
Right.
But the 49ers have 157, 177, which are both 5th-round picks. That has to be what the Vikings got because they don't have a 4th-round pick. So that would give the Vikings then 4 5ths if they got both 5ths.
Boy, remember, they had no 5ths. So what is one pick 117? Is that a 5th?
117 because they got it from Tampa.
Okay, so they got an early 4th-round pick. I like that a lot, Sam. I really do like that early 4th-round pick. Again, they wanted to wait on wideout. Let's see what the Niners do here.
Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. I like this guy. Would have been very interested in him, especially on day 2. I mean, Ayuk is, I think, squarely in that second tier of wide receivers. I think he was a great fit for the Vikings. Huge wingspan.
81-inch wingspan, longest of any player under 6 foot in combine history. Just to put that into perspective, 81-inch wingspan, Sam, is like what you see from offensive tackles, from defensive linemen. Crazy arm length, certainly physical pedigree. Great on special teams, by the way.
Yep.
He is a demon when the ball is in his hands.
Yeah,
make plays with the ball in his hands. So the Niners trade up to get this guy. They thought maybe Miami would snipe him, Seattle, or even Baltimore would snipe this kid. And I think they're probably right. They give up their early 4th that they got from Tampa. I like that from the Vikings perspective. And what'd you say? Pick 177? Okay, that's probably a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, it's the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th.
So and the 5th. So the late 5th, an early 4th and a late 5th.
That gives the Vikings now 14 picks in this draft.
Charge your computer. We're going to be here. And we're not taking any breaks here on zonecoverage.com. We don't take any breaks, all right? No, it's going to be a long weekend, my friend. But, hey, best weekend of the year for me. I absolutely love it. That's only weekend of the NFL season. Every team gets better. Every team gets to be optimistic.
Everyone's going to get an A on their draft grades. That's right. Local pundits. That's the 6th wide receiver taken. Ayuk, by the way, he's a JUCO transfer who took the Pac-12 by storm. 1,192 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. Multi-year threat in the return game. Plays a lot on the outside, but I think he's got the shiftiness to move inside. 6 feet tall, 205, and over 10 yards yak on average last year. Kyle Shanahan, you think he's excited?
He's jacked up, man. He almost just clocked his son walking back there. He's so clocked. He's so jacked up. Yeah, John Lynch. Let's give kudos to Lynch, man. Him and Shanahan. First of all, he hired the right coach. Didn't just hire a good coach like Dan Quinn. Hired the right coach. Then he went and got his quarterback. But he has done such a great job going from worst to first. And sometimes you got to tank all the way to get a Nick Bosa. Sometimes you need to go 2-3 drafts in a row, drafting defensive linemen, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa. But you still have to go hit on the picks. You still got to develop the guys. And I thought John Lynch has done such a great job. The Niners go from worst to first. And over the last few years, they make it to the Super Bowl, come up a few plays short next to Patrick Mahomes, of all people. That's fine. I want to go back to the Vikes. So Josh Jones seems like an option at 31. We'll see if he's still in play. Is Trent Williams still in play? Bottom line, Justin Jefferson, they had a great talent. I'm glad they went offense and gave him some help. He's more of a slot guy, Sam. Kubiak, they like to run the big personnel, 2 tight end, 3 tight end set. They don't love to have a lot of 3 wide receivers. So I think they are confident that Justin Jefferson can be a wide receiver too, a boundary guy. When you look at how he's set up and how he wins, it's a lot like Stephon Diggs. And people probably looked at Stephon Diggs when he first came out and said he's going to be a slot guy only. But he's very aggressive when the ball is up in the air and wins at the highest catch point. I think Justin Jefferson is going to become a wide receiver too in this system, even though they run a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Let's take a look at your top players left on your top 100 board. Again, part of the free zone coverage draft guide. It's still good for another few days. It's not obsolete yet. Go check it out. Just scanning here. It looks like your top 20, with the exception of 3 players, are gone. Xavier McKinney, your 17th. Christian Fulton, your 19th. AJ Epinesa, your 20th. The fact that the Vikings are willing to move back 6 spots tells you that they see a chasm at corner and tackle, that they don't believe anybody sort of in that upper tier has fallen to them. So that I think can give you confidence, if you trust the Vikings front office, that they were going to take the board as it came to them. They weren't going to take their 7th tackle. Instead, they wanted to take maybe their 3rd wide receiver. And that's value. That's what Rick Spielman is all about, getting players below where the Vikings had them projected. And that's presumably what they had with Justin Jefferson. And presumably that's what they're going to try to do here at 31. Do you think they're going to trade back in 31?
That's it's certainly. Question. I mean, who's calling and what are the options? Because Jordan Love seems like a name, or Jalen Hurts seems like a name that really could intrigue a lot of people. Now, let's look at the beginning of the 2nd round coming back to Cincinnati. Need a quarterback? No. Does Indianapolis want a quarterback? I think they might with Phillip Rivers
on a 1-year deal.
That makes a lot of sense. Detroit, nope, they're good. Giants, they're good. Chargers, they're good. Carolina, maybe. Miami, they're good. So really, it's only Indy. And if you're Indy, why would you trade up? You don't need to. Kansas City's good.
Since he's got theirs.
So I think we will have a 2nd pick tonight at pick 31. I'm just tweeting out right now, Sam, that the stage is set for Antoine Winfield Jr.
He's 4th on Mel Kiper's big board right now, Antoine Winfield Jr. And that is the kind of player that you can trade back and be pretty secure in getting. Because I think Winfield, presumably, and again, these teams have different grades than the so-called experts. We try to play that game too. And a lot of times a player might be across the board considered a 2nd round pick. Maybe injury history can play a part, like with Antoine Winfield, but they go in the 1st round. There are situations like that, especially in the late 20s, all the time. And if Antoine Winfield could stay home, he's on record as saying he would love to do it. Obviously, grew up there. His dad, the Vikings legend. It's too much fun to entertain. It would probably signal that Anthony Harris. And that's what we talked about on our podcast last night. Would you, if you could, in just a straight up exchange, would you exchange Anthony Harris for Antoine Winfield Jr.? And I think we'd probably say no, but the financial ramifications aren't bad either. You clear up like $11 million. You get 4 years of a cheap, local, talented product. It would be a lot of fun to see him develop as well under the Mike Zimmer defensive back tutelage. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's 5 picks away. Miami's taking forever here. And they were milking the clock. Miami is traded back to the Packers.
What receiver do they want? Is it Denzel Mims?
It's got to be a receiver. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had nothing in the cupboard last year beyond Devontae Adams. Jordan Love is getting shown on the screen. Could this be a Favre-Rodgers situation where they bring in the next one down the road? Love is smirking. How juicy would that be if Green Bay gets Jordan Love? Trying to take all this in here.
You got to look at who they leapfrog. Why did they get scared or nervous?
They don't have
had
a lot
to
of capital.
leapfrog.
They don't have
They
much.
don't.
No,
They don't. But Seattle and Baltimore were two teams that need wide receiver help likely. So if they wanted a Denzel Mims or a Van Jefferson, or maybe they're on the board for a tight end here, Sam, because Seattle and Baltimore both could be in play for a tight end. I don't like any of these tight ends worthy of a late first-round pick, but nonetheless, I think wide receiver has to be the pick. Matt LaFleur, clearly a guy, offensive-minded. Devontae Adams, nobody behind him. You got to have 2, 3, 4 of these good guys nowadays. I think Denzel Mims probably makes a lot of sense. 6'2.5", 220, runs a 4.37. Sam, that's like you back in your sprinting cross country days.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was probably a little faster than that. Give me some respect, man.
Right.
Come
Sorry
on.
about that.
Come on. Yeah. Again, to reset, I'm Sam Ekstrom. He's Luke Inman. Thanks for tuning in throughout the night. We're going through the Vikings pick, which is now at number 31. So we're basically going the duration of this first round. We started at pick 15. And since then, there's been some ups and downs. I mean, we saw a bunch of corners go off the board, a bunch of receivers go off the board. The Vikings get Justin Jefferson at number 22. And now Roger Goodell trying the Go Pack Go chant with the Lambeau faithful. Oh, it's Jordan Love.
Wow.
Utah State.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
The biggest shock of the night comes at pick 26. The Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love. They got A-Raj.
Wow.
They don't have a lot of draft capital here. And you know Jordan Love is going to sit for the next 2-3 years. You called it a Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers type of segue. Love gets to sit for 2-3 years, which he should, Sam. And under Matt LaFleur's tutelage, this could end up being, like Aaron Rodgers, a phenomenal pick in 5 years.
But if it's 5 years, I mean, again, in situations like this, it does kind of signal that you plan to move on in 3 years, right? I mean, you've got to make a decision on these quarterbacks.
Well, remember, like the Patriots drafted Jimmy G. They thought Tom Brady would be okay, getting up there. We're going to move on from Brady. And all they did was showcase Jimmy G a little bit, and they ended up recouping their pick back while having insurance for Tom Brady that entire 3-4 year period, plus having their guy that they thought could success, Tom Brady. So it's a quarterback-driven league. If they can just showcase him in some preseason games, in some garbage time, show him running around and making some plays with his feet and arm, maybe you end up getting a first-round pick back someday. But certainly in a quarterback league, Sam, you just can't have enough. And quite the interesting pick for sure.
But you look, too, at Aaron Rodgers. He's developing a little bit of an injury history with the Anthony Barr hit in the shoulder. Last year it was the knee for a majority of the year that bothered him. 2 straight years with some chronic injuries that kept him out of games. He wasn't 100% when he was in games. And with Jordan Love, you know, they're calling him this is probably not a fair label, but the next Mahomes-like type of quarterback who can move, throw from all sorts of different platforms, comes from Utah State. That's going to spook people because of the level of competition. But when you get to learn under Aaron Rodgers, that's going to get really interesting. So, and will Rodgers handle this better or worse than Brett Favre? I mean, the legend is that Brett Favre really didn't give Aaron Rodgers the time of day. What's Aaron Rodgers doing right now? Give me a live stream of Aaron Rodgers from his Milwaukee estate. Please.
Oh, we got some drama in Green Bay. If you're in the NFC North, you love it. You got some serious drama. Who knows, though? Maybe Aaron Rodgers plays with a little bit more chip on his shoulder now. Maybe this is what he needs these last 5, 6, 7 years of his career. We'll see how it all shakes out. Certainly, though, the Packers got some drama going on in Green Bay. You absolutely love it if you're the Vikes. You absolutely love it if you're the Lions or Bears. I think right now, Sam, when you look at what the Packers just did, here's what I'm thinking. Vikings are in a mini rebuild year? No, I think they're going for the NFC North Division title this year. The Packers clearly are not drafting for the now. They're drafting for the future. The Bears are in flux with trading for Nick Foles and have Mitch Trubisky. And the Lions, as good as Matt Stafford is just not one player away from being a playoff team. So I think the Vikings are now clearly set to go take control of the NFC North.
Jordan Love, a troublesome 2019. He threw 12 fewer touchdowns last year than the year before and 11 more interceptions. Kind of, again, it's the Josh Allen comparison. Inaccuracy problems at a lower level. How is that going to translate to the next level? But when you're mobile, like Jordan Love, that will mask a lot of deficiencies. And the Packers now have a different quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is micro-mobile. He can manipulate a pocket. He can roll out a little bit, when he's healthy. Jordan Love can make plays with his legs. And let me ask you this, Luke.
Yeah.
Would you rather, at this point in his career, game plan as a Vikings coach, would you rather game plan for Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers? I mean, the devil you know is easier to game plan than the devil you don't. And Jordan Love could be a wild card in this division, for years to come.
Well, there's a reason why he did go late first round, Sam. He's got a lot, and I mean a lot, of serious potential. The ability to run around and create plays in and outside of the pocket with his feet is what makes him so dangerous. He's got a great arm. He's got good touch, had some problems with turnovers, some interceptions throughout his career at Utah State. But I'm just telling you, in today's NFL, you look at the new breed. There's a new breed. There's a new school of quarterbacks that have came in. Once the Bradys and the Phillip Rivers and the Big Bens have gotten aged, it's the mobile quarterback. Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. You got to be able to create something when the play breaks down outside the pocket, something defenses just can't defend. Jordan Love has those attributes. So in a way, there's drama in Green Bay. It's kind of fun now, but that's kind of a scary pick in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Trying to get a look at the Aaron Rodgers contract situation. We are in 2020, dead cap. I mean, it's not like his cap gets friendly in the next 3 years. He is locked in through 2022. At least they're paying him 8 figures. Yeah. So this is a pick for the future for the Green Bay Packers. And whenever this happens, this happens once every 5 years, where a team with a Hall of Fame quarterback makes this kind of move. This is a big moment in the NFL. And it happened you could say, with Garoppolo and the Patriots. And I think it worked out well for the Patriots because they just kept winning Super Bowls, and now they're kind of up a creek. But in the moment, it causes probably some tension. Aaron Rodgers is an outspoken personality. We'll see how this blows over in Green Bay. I'm sure Aaron will have some interesting things to say. He's not been shy about criticizing management in Green Bay when he disagrees with them. Now, there is that new regime with Matt LaFleur. Can't wait to see what goes down with this. Seattle is on the clock right now. We've got Seattle, Baltimore, Tennessee. Who's picking 30? Oh, Miami.
Miami, that's Miami right. Now. They moved down. Yep. Yeah, not as many trades as we thought here, Sam. Still looking for the first running back. Seattle's got the pick in. They're always a wild card.
They love
to grab a running back. DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor. Any one of these next 3 teams. Seattle Seahawks, Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson, Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry. Any one of them could look to get that second running back here because, again, they get the pick of the litter. They get their number 1 running back on the board. Just how valuable is running back in today's day and age, I just don't know.
I knew I had enough juice to get through the 25th pick on this laptop. I'm going to need to plug in here at some point before 31. It's like when you're driving on the highway, the gas tank is the lights
starting to flicker a little bit, and you're in the middle of the woods. You're nowhere near anybody. Your service on your cell's getting a little choppy. We'll get you taken care of. Quite the dramatic first round, though. We had odds, didn't we, before the draft that there's a good chance the Vikings wouldn't end up with both pick 22 and 25 by the night was over. Certainly, again, Trader Rick finds a way, gets an early 4th round pick from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers through, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers. And then San Fran's 5th round pick later in that draft. So 14 picks in all. Don't be surprised if they move up at 58. I'm circling Antoine Winfield Jr. right now, whether they move Anthony Harris or not. Remember, they always year out. Anthony Harris is on a 1-year deal. Winfield can play cornerback as well. So there's options here. I think Antoine Winfield right now is set up to be a great, exciting, fun addition for this franchise.
Here's some names, and one of them probably falls out of the first round, maybe a couple. Fulton, Delpit, Gladney, Mims, Josh Jones, Trevon Diggs. A lot of talent that's going to be available tomorrow night in that second round. The draft is so rich with talent in today's age that it's really not it's not like there's a drop-off magically overnight from pick 32 to 33. You're getting first-round caliber talents all the way to pick 50, and that's going to be the case tomorrow. Seahawks selection is in. I don't think this is going to be a quarterback. I'm just going out on a limb there.
Whoa, Seahawks always.
I've never heard of this person.
Always.
I've never heard of this person.
Sam, go look at the Seahawks draft history. They always surprise some people. They're like the Patriots.
Yeah.
They're like the Patriots. They always try to pull these wild cards. LJ Collier last year. Tons of random names. Jordan Brooks, listen, this dude was a mauler. He was a Buckus Award finalist, led the team in tackles 3 out of his last 4 years. He's a speedster. He killed the combine, was outstandingly athletic. But just again, I think linebacker is just not quite as important as position as I think it used to be, even just 3-4 years ago. Do they think he's more of an edge guy, hand in the dirt? Maybe. Do they think Javion Clowney's not going to be back? Maybe. But I think, you know, if you're the rest of the league, you like this pick because somebody just fell a little bit further than they probably should have. I like Logan Wilson from Wyoming. I like Patrick Queen from LSU. Really surprises me that they value Jordan Brooks higher than a guy like Patrick Queen, but that's why they're the Seahawks. That's why they're Pete Carroll.
Was not in your top 100, which
no.
and therefore
I don't like linebackers that much. I don't value them that much.
And for them to go, and they listed him as an inside linebacker.
Interesting.
Which, again, in today's NFL, I mean, it's all about sort of the edge linebackers, the ones that are going to cover, the ones that are going to blitz, listing him as an inside linebacker. So Seattle goes, and we got the question earlier about reaches from Joe. That's a reach right there. And,
great reach.
And it doesn't mean he's going to be a bad player. It just means that there's not value. And that's the kind of pick that Rick Spielman would never, ever make. When you can conceivably get someone later on, someone who's not, considered that valuable. I don't understand that pick by Seattle. So now it's Baltimore on the clock at number 28. And Baltimore, remember, they're sitting on 2 seconds, 2/3, 2/4, cheap quarterback. This is where you go all in for a Super Bowl. Last year, upset in the playoffs, but this is your window. Lamar Jackson's going to get paid soon. Not yet. He's still got 2 more years on the cheap. This is where Baltimore has got to, draft well, give him weapons, make sure that defense around him is airtight, and they're in an enviable spot.
Yeah,
right
they're loaded with picks, as you mentioned. Denzel Mims still sitting on the board. They want to make a strength even stronger at that passing game. Hollywood Brown, Denzel Mims running 4.37. Maybe that's the game plan. Or Patrick Queen still on the board. Baltimore Ravens always have that tough, old-school defense. I certainly think John Harbaugh probably wants to add another defensive piece and weapon. Patrick Queen would make a lot of sense, too. Let's talk about the Vikings, though, at 31. Just 3 picks away here, Sam. I talked a lot about Antoine Winfield. How fun would that be? But Josh Jones is still on the board. The Miami Dolphins pick right before him at 30. They're not drafting a tackle, right? Because they just drafted Austin Jackson.
Right.
Pick 29 is who?
Who is 29?
Pick 29, I think that was a traded pick, but pick 29.
The Titans.
The Titans? They did lose Jack Conklin, so maybe they want Josh Jones. They want to win in the trenches. That's an option. But I think the Josh Jones train should be back there for the Vikings at 31. Winfield's fun. It's sexy. His dad was the best Viking defender, maybe outside of Jared Allen, I ever watched growing up as a kid. I love that just kind of it factor he plays with. Anthony Harris is on a 1-year deal. Maybe they want to think about that as well in the future. Losing, again, they have no safeties right now for depth purposes. Jaron Kearse, Andrew Sendejo, they're gone. Winfield's fun and sexy. I still think they want to find their future left tackle. Josh Jones probably more realistic. Antoine Winfield, boy, that would be some fireworks going to bed tonight as a Viking fan.
Ravens have Ronnie Stanley and Orlando Brown at tackle, and Vikings legend Andre Smith in the mix as well. The Titans at tackle, Taylor Lewan is
Taylor Lewan stud, but they lost Jack Conklin, correct?
Right, and Dennis Kelly, who was their swing sixth man last year, he's right now slotted in at right tackle. So do you take someone like Josh Jones, knowing you have your left tackle figured out, to play on the right side? And, what's Tennessee's quarterback situation? Are they going with Tannehill for the future? I think that's sort of, to be determined. The fact that Jordan Love is gone now, I think any other quarterback would be a little surprising.
Jalen Hurts, sure. Yeah, you're right. Anybody would be surprising. It wouldn't shock me if Jalen Hurts snuck in here. I like Jalen Hurts that much, but that's it. Jacob Eason, Jacob Fromm, those guys are going tomorrow sometime, probably even later tomorrow on day 3. It'll be interesting here, Sam. I think, again, I'm just circling back to 31, Antoine Winfield Jr., Josh Jones, the two guys that I kind of have circled. Maybe they go cornerback. Let's not forget about that. Jeff Gladney still on the board. Trevon Diggs still on the board. Maybe they love Jalen Johnson or the Noah kid from Auburn who blazed at the combine with a great 40 time. But that's my point. There's depth there at corner tomorrow if you want to move up. Bryce Hall, we haven't even talked about. 58, you should be able to get a good corner. Are you going to be able to get a Josh Jones type at 58? I don't think so. You're looking at Ben Barch. You're looking at Matthew Pert from UConn. You're looking at, guys like that. Xavier McKinney's still on the board. Grant Delpit's still on the board. Winfield's still on the board. Maybe they look at 2021 and say, Anthony Harris is out the door. Let's get our safety right now. Let's run some 3 safety packages this year with that as well. You see Antoine Winfield right there on the board. Boy, I hope not. Look at Antoine Winfield's dad there. Just a stud, man.
We've been talking about the devaluing of the linebacker position throughout the night and throughout the linebacker is not dead. Brooks going early.
Murray was traded up for.
And would you consider Simmons a linebacker?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a flex
yeah.
player?
It's definitely a joker, but certainly at the end of the day, you got to pick one. He's a linebacker.
And it looks like Patrick Queen could be going here to Baltimore. That'd be 4 linebackers. I mean, that's as many linebackers as quarterbacks. There's, have there only been 4 corners taken? Only 4 corners taken in this first round, which to me is unbelievable. So the linebacker is still valued in this league, especially if you're the type that can cover. It's positionless football. Linebackers have to cover now. Sometimes edge rushers have to cover. Everybody's got to play all over the field nowadays. And Patrick Queen, if that is the pick to Baltimore, that could be a really good pick for them. And they've got a history, of course, in developing linebackers. Lewis, Suggs, this could be the next one for the Ravens. Goodell's going to make it official here.
Again, Vikings just 2 picks away now. Miami, sneaky good trade back. Any teams that can trade back, I think, are big winners. Miami did a good job here. Vikings have done a good job.
Way, on Justin Jefferson, the Vikings' last pick, 92% contested catch rate last year, first in the draft.
I think he's feisty, man. They think he's feisty at the catch point.
So it is Patrick Queen, the Ravens selection.
So 2 picks here. You got the Titans and the Dolphins.
How many Tigers is that from LSU? Let's count them up.
Count them up.
We got
made game-changing plays when they mattered most. It was his interception right before the half that led to
struggling to count here. So Chasen, Jefferson,
Burrow,
obviously.
Queen. I think that's it.
I think
4.
just 4. Yeah.
Pretty good, though.
More coming.
Pretty good.
More coming, no doubt. Patrick Queen, 230. Again, he's young. He's 20 years old. Part of that unbelievable defense.
I got to stretch it out here before this
Vikings
Vikings
full-time
second
player partway through his junior year. Took him a while to emerge, with the Tigers, had 12 tackles for loss, though, a season ago. He's got really good speed, the fourth best 40 time at the combine at 4.5. Good broad jump, good explosiveness. PFF liked his coverage grade, 12th best in the country last year amongst linebackers. So, again, some of these undersized linebackers, they got to learn how to tackle a little better. But, I mean, at this point, coverage skills are almost as important as tackling skills as a linebacker, especially an outside linebacker. 2 more picks till Minnesota. It's Tennessee, and then it's Miami. Titans, again, last year making that surprise run almost to the Super Bowl. They led the AFC Championship game on the road before falling to Kansas City. And while we have a lull, I'm going to do the necessary evil. Let's get this thing plugged in.
Boy, the more you just watch about Justin Jefferson, man, he reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs. I don't like, again, the pressure that comes with that. That's unfair for Justin Jefferson. It's already hard enough. Now you have to be this next Stephon Diggs, but just how good he is. I love that stat that you read, Sam, the PFF stat. Highest in the draft class at contested catches. Stephon Diggs, one of, if not the best, contested catch rate in the NFL. So I think as much as he's a slot guy coming out, I think they're really going to try to use him and Thielen in the same way as those 1 and 2 wide receivers and mix both of them still in and out as wideouts. Listen, Justin Jefferson, whether he's on the inside or outside, is going to get a lot of one-on-one looks. You want a guy who you feel comfortable bringing in that can take advantage of those one-on-one looks.
Vikings go first 4 picks on offense last year, first pick on offense this year. I think you could make a case for a tackle coming up here with their next pick. I mean, this is one way to make up for all of their defensive losses, is not to replace all of those players, kind of apples to apples. You double down on offense. And that was the vibe that I got from Kirk Cousins when he talked earlier this offseason. They really believe in this scheme, and they're going to try to surround him with everything they can to make this a top 5 offense. And if that's the case, then you can stomach some lapses on the defensive side. You can deal with a younger secondary if you're playing with a lead. That's sort of the name of the game, right? Is to score more points. The Vikings have been defensive oriented so long. It impacted, I think, what they were doing on offense, made them a little more conservative. But the Vikings going into this year are going to be an offense-first team. That just has to be the way that it plays out. No more Griffin, no more Linval, no more Rhodes, no more Waynes. The staples are disappearing. Harris might be gone as well. Sendejo's gone. Mack's gone. Going to be a new-look defense, but the offense, now that you've got the Diggs replacement, it's going to look very similar, maybe even better than it did last year.
Yeah, again, that was me playing devil's advocate all offseason, Sam. Listen, Mike Zimmer has been phenomenal, right? He's been one of the best defensive coaches at developing talent, whether you give him a first-rounder with Trey Waynes, or whether you give him a 7th-rounder, UDFA with Anthony Harris, Stephen Weatherly, Afedi, Adenabo. He's been great either way. So I think now, after 6 years, Mike Zimmer coming in year 6, you've shown you can do a lot with defense. It's time to get the offense up to par, up to Q, basically. And you got Kirk Cousins, a pure pocket passer, outstanding accuracy deep down the field when he's given time. You got this Gary Kubiak run-first offense, Dalvin Cook, one of the most explosive. What is going on right here? What is that and what is that?
Mike Vrabel, you have a man crush on him.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah, look at him. He's a stud. But what is going on behind Mike Vrabel right now?
Is this intentionally frozen, or is this a glitch in the system? We've gone glitch-free pretty much most of the night. We haven't had anybody hack the NFL draft. That's a good thing.
Somebody tweet me a screenshot of that, whatever was behind Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel keeps it loose. He's he's not afraid to shake things up. He walks by the beat of his own drum. He switches quarterbacks in the middle of the season to a journeyman who nobody believed in, and they make the AFC Championship game. Tennessee, they're good at receiver. They've got Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, I think. Offensive line, we discussed. They lose Jack Conklin.
Yeah, Josh Jones scares me a little bit, getting sniped here. If he doesn't go here, he won't go to Miami. You'll have both options here. Otherwise, what are you thinking here for Tennessee?
It's hard. I think corner is a possibility. I mean, they've got on the defensive line, they've got Jeffrey Simmons. He's going to be 100% next year, but they don't have a lot else other than that. AJ Epinesa is a very good player.
That's a good name. Julian Aquara, defensive end from Notre Dame. That's an interesting name. Let's see what the Titans do. Mike Vrabel, your man crush. Tackle.
Isaiah Wilson.
Okay. We heard from Daniel Jeremiah a few weeks ago that there was a good chance Isaiah Wilson was going to end up sneaking into the end of the first round. He was right. Daniel Jeremiah, as always, very plugged in of what the NFL circles are saying. Isaiah Wilson, you want a big dude, Sam? This dude's almost 350 pounds. What do the Titans want to do when you think Titans on offense? They want to run the ball down your throat, and they want to beat you up in the trenches. They lose Conklin. Well, guess what? They just added a monster, 6'6.5". 350 pounds, as I just said. He's a mauler. He's a big dude. He will help push the pile and help who's ever back there, Ryan Tannehill or anybody else, and Derrick Henry continue to be those guys that they are on the ground.
One more pick to the Vikings. It's the Miami Dolphins selecting at number 30. We're almost done with round one. Now, remember, Miami has already picked prior to the Vikings. They took a tackle. Was it the tackle the Vikings coveted? Austin Jackson, maybe. They might have stolen one pick already tonight. Will they steal another? Miami's already got so much draft capital. I don't know if they're particularly interested in moving down. They don't need the extra capital, but if the Vikings get desperate, we'll see what happens here. The Vikings already have 2 additional picks on day 3. 14 picks for the Vikings in this draft, which I believe matches the high.
Gotta be.
The high going in was 14 for any team. Miami is they've already landed their quarterback of the future, Tua Tagovailoa. They've got their tackle to protect him, Austin Jackson. They've added an elite cornerback, Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, Eric Flowers, Emmanuel Ogbah. That's like 5 starters in the offseason already. Dolphins could be legit next year. I mean, what do you think? New England maybe finishing 3rd in the AFC East? Is that possible?
It certainly is. We talk about going from worst to first all the time. How about from going first to worst? I mean, Tom Brady's finally out of the division. These 3 teams in the AFC East, Sam, the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills they've been dying, Sam. They've been begging for Tom Brady to finally get out of the division, whether it was for him to retire, for him just to go sign or get traded to a new team. Finally, they feel like they have a chance. Buffalo's got Josh Allen, a new young quarterback. Jets, has Sam Darnold, a young quarterback. And again, I think it's wide open, Sam. Anybody can go from worst to first in this league. Patriots could certainly struggle. They could be in the hunt for Trevor Lawrence next year. They maybe go a year and basically take the route of the Colts and Andrew Luck when they had Peyton Manning for 15 years. They tank for 1 year. You do it right. You get the first pick. Take Trevor Lawrence. The Packers go from Brett Favre for 18 years to Aaron Rodgers for 15 years. How funny would it be? The Patriots go from Tom Brady for 20 years, tank for 1 year, you do it right, worst team in the league, and then you draft Trevor Lawrence, one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a long time. They got a lot of ammo. They could certainly think about doing it.
I just saw a tweet that might make you very upset, Luke. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, no.
Miami is on the clock.
No, Winfield.
Miami.
Oh, no. The
Gary,
Vikings get sniped with Antoine Winfield.
Maybe.
That's too bad.
The source is suspect. I'll just say that.
Well, they're just looking to add the best players available. They're in rebuild mode. Antoine Winfield certainly could have been that kind of player. So that's too bad.
Gary wants to know our outlook on the Vikings O-line pick. I mean, Josh Jones is still there. If it's not Josh Jones, what do you think about Ezra Cleveland from Boise State? I love him.
Ultra athletic. If you talk about Brian O'Neill coming in as a late second-round pick and being as good as he has been, which was one of the biggest misses I've ever had as a draft scout who does this for the last 5-6 years, certainly Ezra Cleveland fits that bill as well. The question becomes, Sam, who's the left tackle? Is it Ezra Cleveland, or do you move Brian O'Neill over to the left side? I'm telling you, though, they want to get their left tackle in place. They want him to be the foundational piece and have a young core and nucleus of Brian O'Neill, Garrett Bradbury, possibly Drew Samia as your starting right guard, and a new left tackle, and have that core for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Hour is getting late. To all you East Coasters watching us over, in New York and Boston, North Carolina, it's almost midnight. You've stayed up late with us, and we appreciate that. We're streaming on YouTube as well. Shameless plug, we do a podcast if you're new to zone coverage with Arif Hassan of The Athletic. That drops Wednesdays. It's called the Zone Coverage Football Machine. Check it out. We've got the film guru, the analytics guru. I've got the boots on the ground at the Vikings facility. All of our content is at zonecoverage.com. Plenty to chew on at the free Zone Coverage Draft Guide. Vikings pick next, then Kansas City rounds out the night. Tomorrow, to set the scene, the Vikings have a 2nd and 2/3, and day 2, that's a day when the Vikings love to really get active with trades. We've already seen it today, but I mean, that could be trade up into the 2nd, trade back into the 3rd. It could get wild tomorrow night.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Winfield's going to get sniped here. You still got some bevy of options, though, here, Sam. What if you trade back again? I don't know. There's a lot of good corners. You could go LSU, go Justin Jefferson, Christian Fulton. You could go Grant Delpete. You could go Xavier McKinney from Alabama. I'm telling you, I think when you look at best available, if they're not going to go Josh Jones, they're not going to go offensive line, I think you look at Anthony Harris on the franchise tag, and you look at some options after him. Look at Xavier McKinney, 15th overall on the big board. He's a strong safety. He's an in-the-box safety. Means Harrison Smith going to have to be that kind of center fielder again. But sounds like Winfield's going to get sniped. McKinney, Grant Delpit, Michael Pittman Jr. Maybe you want to double dip here, Sam. Go Justin Jefferson and Michael Pittman. Those are all serious options.
They're not double dipping. Not with this offense. If this was the air raid, yeah, I would double dip in this class. I don't think they're double dipping. I got really excited though about the Antoine Winfield possibility. You got me excited. You got my hopes up. You're not supposed to do that. And now I'm looking at the Gopher. One pick before Minnesota goes, he'll go and play for the Dolphins. And if you're Winfield too, I mean, he's going to be pumped. He's going to smile, but I'm sure that there was something inside of him that was secretly hoping for him to play for the same team that his father starred for. And we haven't gotten official confirmation yet. It looks like it's not happening. We got a talking head of Adam Schefter. Pick has been in for a really long time. Jeff Gladney still on the board. Denzel Mims.
Love Gladney. Love Fulton would be still good value. You feel like Xavier McKinney probably the best value at this point. There's a lot of options here, Sam. Again, maybe moving down and stockpiling a little bit. Too bad. Again, Winfield gets sniped. That would have been awesome. That would have been fun. That would have been the dream. But again, how could you feel bad getting Xavier McKinney at 31 if you're thinking about Winfield? So if you're thinking about Winfield at 31, McKinney has to be in the discussion.
And the decision on Harris could be pending based on what happens here in the draft. Vikings might have said, all right, let's not have any long-term discussions. Let's just stand pat. We're not going to trade you. We're not going to extend you. Let's see what happens. And if a great safety falls in our lap, we're sorry, Anthony. We'll try to send you to a good home. That could be the case here. I don't see them retaining Anthony Harris and a first-round safety. And let's talk about the Vikings' history at safety. Haven't drafted a safety above the 6th round since Harrison Smith, 2012. and that was Marcus Epps.
Marcus
And
Epps, who I really liked. That gave me that honey badger type of vibe. He's in Philadelphia now. That's what happens when you have such a stacked roster like that. It's tough to keep those late round picks, those practice squad guys, those developmental guys. But Anthony Harris, they plucked him, UDFA. The writing was on the wall. If he could stay healthy, Anthony Harris was a really good, strong, free safety coming out of Virginia, tied the nation with interceptions with 7 that last and final year at Virginia for the Cavs. But we'll see what happens here. Again, I think if you're looking at Winfield, you feel a little bummed, but if you're looking at Winfield, then you got to think about Xavier McKinney, who's still on the board, best available from Mel Kiper. I think he was my 23rd ranked player on my big board. So you still feel like you got good value after moving back. If you get sniped with Winfield, why not just punch Josh Jones?
The safeties on the Dolphins roster, Eric Rowe and Adrian Colbert. I mean, there's not a tremendous amount of name recognition there. You can see why they would want to add a talent like that on their back end. They did offense with their first 2 picks. Crush our heart, Goodell. It's not Winfield. It's Noah Igbenegene. Who led us astray? Who was
Now they crush our hearts. Now they crush our hearts. This is where things get wild again. We don't go anywhere. We're staying here all weekend. Charge your computers. Go get a beverage. Hit the can. We are not leaving this spot. It's all on Zone Coverage, zonecovers.com. This guy was a burner, if that makes you feel any better. This guy was flirted with the end of the first round, early second round. This is what I'm talking about, Sam. There is plenty of second-tier cornerbacks to choose from. Winfield seems fun right here. I still think they want to go Josh Jones. That's got to be an interesting topic there, too.
Someone's going to get unfollowed on Twitter because that was not – Igbenegene's got an unbelievable story. I mean, really athletic family out of Auburn, corner. And this would be the 5th cornerback that goes off the board, the first one in 11 picks. So 5 corners, 6 tackles, 6 wide receivers. This is such an unorthodox year, Luke, because there's some positions that ordinarily you'd have a couple first-round picks out of. Center, tight end, running back. None of that this year.
Cesar Ruiz
one guard,
was
guard,
depending on where you rank him. But
you've got, add quarterback in the mix too. Quarterback, corner, receiver, tackle. That would be, let's see, 6, 6, 5. I mean, that's 80% of the picks in this first round, and then toss a bunch of linebackers in there to round it out. Gophers beat this guy in the Outback Bowl of Benegene.
That's right.
We have reached pick number 31, 2 picks left in the evening. I mean, I like the fit too. Igbenegene with the Vikings, 5'10", 200 pounds, little undersized,
fast,
but really fast. 4.48 speed, explosive vertical, explosive broad jump. Vikings have proven they're okay taking some smaller corners. Only allowed 42% completion percentage in 2018. Really good.
Here we go. Why are they smiling?
Antoine Winfield shown on ESPN. I've been kind of spoiling some picks of late. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to look.
Oh, you're not going to look. I thought you knew.
No, I'm not going to look.
Let's be real here, Sam. Okay. Winfield's fun. How fun would that be? We know why. Winfield would be fun. But realistically, safety is one of their strongest positions right now. So that doesn't make a lot of sense on paper. Granted, Anthony Harris on a franchise 1-year deal, you'd be great for 2021. Winfield can certainly play some cornerback as well. That helps. But a bigger pressing need is that corner, a true corner, and Jeff Gladney, Trevon Diggs, and or offensive line tackle Josh Jones. Big dip after Josh Jones. Unless something's in the works with Trent Williams that we don't know about, maybe they don't care. Maybe they just want to go Winfield. Xavier McKinney, if you're looking at Winfield, Xavier McKinney makes just as much sense as Winfield does outside of the obvious ties and connection. You see Spielman and Zimmer there on the board.
So in order of entertaining picks, it would be Winfield,
yes,
Diggs,
yes,
and then way down here, Josh Jones.
Thaddeus Moss. Yes.
Anybody with a family connection. Michael Pittman. Van Jefferson.
Pick is in, baby.
31st pick. Vikings select Jeff Gladney.
Yeah, I like it.
Cornerback
I
TCU.
like this dude. Feisty, undersized, pit bull mentality, junkyard dog. You're going to love this guy with Mike Zimmer. 5'10". I don't care if your boundary corners are Mike Hughes and Jeff Gladney. Watch this guy play. This dude is feisty. He's aggressive at the ball point. Let me tell you something here real quick, Sam. Nobody had more pass breakups than they had games started than Jeff Gladney in the entire country. Nobody. He gets his hands on the ball, and he's a guy, Sam, that in my history doing this, if you can find guys in the secondary that get their hands on the ball, odds are they're going to be pretty good.
I had Gladney as a tremendous fit for the Minnesota Vikings. I had a metric that I was grading all these prospects on out of 5, and I had him a 4.5. He's only 190 pounds. He's not the heaviest guy. Vikings have a great history, though, of bulking up these defensive backs, making them more physical, making them better tacklers. Got that, like you said, the junkyard dog, Mike Zimmer. I love this saying. He'd rather have to tell them whoa than go. He likes that they have that natural aggression. So the Vikings do, I mean, in all said and done, they do what they should have done. They go chalk, receiver, corner. 2 huge needs, both checked off, and they'll save offensive line, presumably for tomorrow. Gladney, really strong, top 10 in bench reps, top 5 in vertical, really bad in the 3 cone, which might be a little bit concerning.
Sure.
But the 40-yard dash was fine, 4.48. The physicality, though, Zimmer's going to love. And this is probably the most obscure stat you'll hear all night, but PFF highlighted this. 80% tight coverage on throws 10 or more yards downfield. So 80% of the time, if it's thrown downfield, he is successfully creating an incompletion or breaking up the pass. And that's a demonstration of somebody who uses their speed well. So he can get downfield. He's not getting burned deep. That's a good sign. Contested catches. He disallowed 36 of 46 over the last 2 seasons. So about 3/4 of the time, that ball's not getting completed. I mean, doesn't that sound like a Mike Zimmer kind of guy?
Absolutely. That's what I just said. Yeah. Nobody had more pass breakups than games started. Meek Robertson and Jeff Gladney, only 2 guys in the entire country coming out of the draft. Watch him go get a Meek Robertson now, too. Where's Winfield going to go? Listen, Sam, you have so much ammo. If you want to move up from 58 now, get a good night's sleep, go rest up. You got ammo if you want to move up for a guy like Winfield or Josh Jones, you can do that.
And you projected that. You projected that in your mock yesterday. So Winfield goes to day 2, unless the Chiefs take him here. Chiefs, the final selection of round 1. We'll stay through it. We'll see how this thing ends. The Vikings get a corner and a wide receiver. And Gladney out of TCU, that's a conference the Vikings don't typically draft from, although they did sort of break down those barriers last year. In the first 5 drafts of Mike Zimmer's time in Minnesota, partnered with Rick Spielman, they only selected from the Big 12 twice. Last year they took 2, Drew Samia and Chris Boyd. Now they splash with a first-round pick, Jeff Gladney, TCU Horned Frogs. Really good team over at TCU last year. A lot of prospects. I mean, Denzel Mims, obviously out of Baylor, but Rager. I confused Mims and Rager there. Rager, the TCU Horned Frog, who goes earlier in this first round. Tail the tape, Luke. Got to be pretty pleased with how this went for the Vikings.
I think so. You know, if you want to play devil's advocate here, where do you win games? In the trenches. They didn't add a D line. We didn't expect them to. We did expect them to add an offensive lineman. I think Austin Jackson getting sniped at pick 18 really basically went to plan B, went to plan C. Let's move back, go get some extra picks, garnish some extra picks. I love the fact that they got an early 4th, end of 5th tomorrow. It's going to be great. They got plenty of ammo all weekend. If they want to move back up, they can certainly do that. But Justin Jefferson, here's the deal. Could be the 4th best receiver in the class. Jeff Gladney may be the 3rd best cornerback in the class behind CJ Henderson, depending on who you ask. So I think you get great value both there. And if you still want a safety, again, I think you can move up tomorrow and go get McKinney, Delpit, or Winfield. Those are all in play here. There's a lot of options, a lot of ammo for Rick Spielman.
Rick Spielman is going to talk 8 minutes from now on a Zoom call. So we'll be dropping out just before that to try to listen into Rick Spielman, wrapping up things here on our live stream. Got a lot of extra run out of this, which is great, on here for another hour. Thank you for staying up and watching. It's 11:07 local time. We've been on here for about 2+ hours, 2 hours and 7 minutes. The champion Chiefs are selecting. The pick is in. We'll get in this last pick before we sign off for the day. Tomorrow, still figuring out the content plan. Probably won't have an extended live stream, but we will have some video elements tomorrow coming with Luke and I on the various platforms. Obviously, all the breakdowns at zonecoverage.com. And we'll get some features together on today's draft picks, Gladney and Jefferson. It's unfortunate, Luke, that we won't get to see these guys in rookie camp next week. We're probably not going to see them in OTAs. We may not see these guys in a purple jersey for 4 months. It could be the end of August when we finally do see these guys. If the season gets pushed back at all, if training camp gets truncated, that'd be really unfortunate, but that'll only build the anticipation before we see. And the great part is get to watch these guys line up across from each other in practice.
I think the one thing that I'm looking at as a disadvantage is if you got young guys, 20, 21 years old, coming in, they get no rookie mini camp, they get no OTAs, maybe no training camp. The guys who can come in right away as a rookie and be productive, I'm banking those are the 4 or 5 year starters. The captains. Those are the guys with a lot more college reps, a lot more football played that maybe don't need the rookie OTAs, the mini camps, the training camps as much as those younger 20, 21-year-old guys.
Waiting for the Chiefs pick. Andy Reid. We're in the Hawaiian.
Of course he is.
On brand for Andy Reid. So do you think Jefferson, wide receiver 2, automatically steps in wide receiver 2, or do they still give that to BC? Do they give it to Tajay Sharp?
It's a good question. I think Tajay Sharp brings in at least some veteran presence there and a speedster. I think they still want to grab another speedster, a long burner down the road. Let's see who the Chiefs round out round 1 with at pick 32. The first running back,
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH out of LSU.
It's not DeAndre Swift, Sam. It's not Jonathan Taylor. It's not J.K. Dobbins. This guy's stock soared the last 2-3 months of this season.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If not for the Spielman press conference, we'd give you more on him, but he exploded in his final season. I mean, he is a bowling ball, can catch the ball, can run the ball, explosive. Very diminutive in size, but that's kind of the new breed of running back, smaller guys that can move around. He's a scat back. I think the Chiefs, think of the speed on that offense, Tyreek Hill and now CEH. Luke, we're going to sign off here. We're going to hear from Spielman. We'll talk to you on the various zone coverage platforms over the next couple days. This has been a blast. Thank you for watching. Vikings get a receiver and a cornerback, Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney, signing off from our special studio in my basement. Social distancing, I think we did okay.
We did all right.
We didn't high five. Mm-hmm. We didn't come within the bubble. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna call it quits. Thanks, Luke. Good analysis, man.
Good stuff, man.